Chapter 839. Yi Jian's eyes turned cold when she heard Yao Jing say, "Shameless." She stared at Yao Jing coldly. "You're so filthy that even your thoughts are dirty. Every word you say is not only nonsense, but also stinks. Yao Jing, if you have any sense of shame, you'll be ashamed of your actions." She couldn't tolerate Yi Qian's insults. She had tolerated enough in her previous life. How could she tolerate it again in this life? Being scolded in front of Yang Heng made her so angry that her lungs were about to explode. Just as Yao Jing was about to retort, she saw Yang Heng looking at her coldly from the corner of her eye. It was as if a basin of cold water had been poured over her, drenching her completely. He was angry with her. He was angry with her because of Yi Qian. He was angry with a friend whom he had known since childhood. Yao Jing, whose heart had turned cold, was fuming with rage. "Yang Heng, how could you do this to me? How could you do this to me?" Yang Heng's handsome face was covered in dark clouds. He looked coldly at the girl who had said that she was thinking for him, but had slandered Yi Qian under the guise of caring for him. Not only was there coldness in his eyes, there was also deep disgust. Yao Jing wasn't an honest and upright person. Her behavior alone made him feel even more ashamed. "I'm friends with Yi Qian. Since someone is making things difficult for him, what's wrong with me stepping in?" He didn't know what Yao Jing knew, but judging from what Yi Qian had said, Yao Jing had done something very sinister tonight. As for what it was, he could only slowly tempt her to say it herself. Yao Jing, who had deep feelings for Yang Heng and was exceptionally stubborn, was furious when she heard this. She glared at Yi Qian like a poisoned arrow. "Yi Qian, you're too despicable. You even instigated Yang Heng to stand up for you." "Stand up for what?" The people who spoke were none other than Director Yang and his wife, who were sending their family and friends back to their hotel rooms to rest, and Deputy Director Yao and his wife, who were preparing to go home. Director Yang first looked at Yi Qian. When he spoke, he did not put on any airs of an official. He said cordially, "Just now, you had some urgent matters to attend to, so you went out. I told you, you are a child with a sense of propriety. It is impossible for you to go out without a reason. Even if you went out, you must have some matters to attend to and will be back soon. Look, he came back in half an hour. Uncle Yang, Auntie Song, you came at the right time. Yi Qian got into trouble outside, and when I came out, I saw Yang Heng fighting for her. There are also a few boys from their class who play darts." Yao Jing had been worrying about how to inform Chief Yang and his wife, so how could she let go of this opportunity? She quickly reported everything to them. Director Yang was clearly asking Yi Qian, but she beat him to it. Director Yang's expression turned a little cold. Little girl Jing is really much more active than before. She's also more impatient. Old Yao, girls shouldn't be like you. That's why I'm worried. The older she is, the livelier she is. But she said something about Yang Heng fighting for her. I think this girl is anxious. She's afraid that Yang Heng will get hurt. Deputy Director Yao, who was on his daughter's side, spoke even more eloquently. His daughter didn't follow the rules and interrupted others, so he made it sound like his daughter was worried about Yang Heng and was impolite in the heat of the moment. In other words, she wouldn't usually act like this. She would only act impolitely when it came to Yang Heng. Chapter 840. Director Yang, who still had a smile on his face, said coldly, "Come on, Jing, tell me what's going on." "Uncle, I don't know what happened. I only heard that it was because of Yi Qian. They fought for her. I saw that one of the boys' arms was injured. I was afraid that Yang Heng would be injured, so I came to ask." Yao Jing was indeed smart. She didn't insist that Yi Qian asked Yang Heng to fight. When she saw the adults, she always prefaced it with, "I saw it when I came out." This sentence meant, "I saw it, but I don't know." She didn't know, which meant that she wasn't sure. If she was wrong, it was because she only saw it and didn't know. Yi Jian's lips curled into a smile. Yao Jing was such a scheming person. Whenever there was a problem, the first thing she would think of was to push the blame onto others so as to clear her own name. She also loved to talk with two sides. She said one thing at the beginning, but after meeting different people, she said another thing. This kind of person could be said to be tactful, but in fact, she lacked sincerity. She didn't even have the essence of sincerity. So what if she was tactful? Others weren't fools. Couldn't they see it? Mother Yang was more and more displeased with Yao Jing's way of handling things. No matter how much she disliked her, she was still someone else's child. She wouldn't care. At most, she would treat her indifferently. She smiled and walked to Yi Qian's side. She said kindly, "Auntie wants to apologize to you. I said something I shouldn't have said at the banquet. I hope you can forgive Auntie this time. Tomorrow, Auntie will cook a table of good dishes at home and apologize to you." Her daughter's indifference made Mother Yao's eyes flicker slightly. She secretly glared at her husband and walked to Yao Jing's side. She said softly, "What do you want to say? Look at the situation. Is there something wrong with your brain? Go and apologize to Auntie Song." It seemed that Huiying treated Yi Qian differently. The more it was like this, the more she couldn't let her daughter be disrespectful. She only had one precious daughter. As long as she married into the Yang family, who was tolerant and generous and wouldn't mistreat her baby, she could truly be at ease. Therefore, she absolutely could not let Yi Qian stand in her daughter's way. "Auntie, I'm sorry. I was too anxious just now and spoke without thinking. Please don't be angry." Yao Jing's reaction was so fast that she realized that she had made a big mistake. She immediately hugged Mother Yang's arm and acted like a spoiled child. "Auntie Song, can you forgive me? I was really anxious. I was afraid that Yang Heng would get hurt." Mother Yang wouldn't do anything to a child. She smiled and said, "Jing girl, Auntie is talking to Yi Qian. If you interrupt, Yi Qian will also be unhappy. Be good and go home with your parents. It's getting late. Rest early." Hearing this, Yi Qian immediately shot a glance at Yang Heng, who was suspicious of Yao Jing. He wanted him to make Yao Jing stay for the time being. "Mom, Yao Jing said that I was fighting for Yi Qian. I haven't asked her how she found out." Even without Yi Qian's signal, Yang Heng would let Yao Jing stay. He hadn't asked clearly, so how could he let her go? Yi Qian also said to Mother Yang, "Auntie, I'm not unhappy. We just talked to Yao Jing about something. If it's convenient, you can listen. If it's not convenient, you can go back to your room and rest. I promise that Yang Heng and I won't do anything that will make you worry." Chapter 841. Seeing Yi Qian's calm expression and not afraid of what her daughter had said, Mother Yao's heart sank. Her many years of experience in politics made her have a vague premonition that if she continued, it would be very bad for her daughter. With such a premonition, she made a prompt decision and said, "In my opinion, it's not a big deal. Maybe it's just a quarrel between children. Jing, why are you butting into other people's business? Your Auntie Song and Uncle Yang know how to deal with it. Quick, say goodbye to them. We have to go home." Last time at school, the couple couldn't get off the stage. This time, they couldn't let a child do the same in front of Huiying and her husband. Mother Yao was afraid of Yi Qian. Deputy Bureau Chief Yao always listened to his wife on family matters. When he received the hint, he laughed and patted Bureau Chief Yang's shoulder. Boys are much more mischievous than girls. Ask them what happened. Jing Jing won't say anything out of concern for Heng Heng. It's getting late. Let's go home. Deputy Bureau Chief Yao, this matter has something to do with Yao Jing. It has nothing to do with Yang Heng, Yi Qian said calmly, but it made the Yao family's expressions change. Yao Jing stared at Yi Qian with a piercing gaze. What does it have to do with me? You caused Yang Heng to fight and you still have the face to say that. She even knew that she went out to fight. It seemed that Luo Ran didn't appear at the hotel because Luo Ran found out that she was here, but because Yao Jing tipped them off. Although he wasn't afraid of a snake that showed its fangs from time to time, it still affected his mood. Yi Qian narrowed his eyes and said guiltily, "How did you know that we went out to fight? Now you know you're guilty. It's too late. You've messed with someone you shouldn't mess with. Don't even think about having a good time in school." How could I not know? That senior brother Wang Jin already said it. Yao Jing sneered. Her gaze towards Yi Qian was filled with disgust. Senior brother Wang Jin said, "We clearly agreed to attack together, but in the end, I'm the only one who's going. You guys are too disloyal." Yi Qian, Wang Jin has already said it himself. Are you still trying to deny it? A girl like you actually lured a few boys to help you fight. You have no shame at all. Not only was he rude, he had even lost the most basic morals as a human being. Yi Qian's eyes suddenly turned cold. He looked at Yao Jing and scolded, "A girl is slandering another girl for her own selfish desires without any basis. Yao Jing, not only do you have no shame, you don't even have the most basic morals as a human being." She usually had a slight smile on her face and a gentle expression on her face when she interacted with others. But now, her expression suddenly turned cold. The aura she exuded was so strong that even the adults were stunned. Her originally gentle and beautiful face instantly turned extremely cold. No one dared to look her in the eye. Yi Qian had been on the battlefield with a gun, carried out countless missions, and eliminated countless enemies. The aura he exuded was not something that a flower in a greenhouse like Yao Jing could compare to. She was immediately scolded by Yi Qian. She took a few steps back and fell into her father's arms. Deputy Bureau Chief Yao, who had been stunned by his daughter's bump, came back to his senses. When he thought of the army behind Yi Qian, he swallowed back the words he wanted to say. After a while, he sneered and said, "You're so sharp-tongued to bully a schoolmate. I think you're just a so-so. Jing Jing, let's go." Chapter 842. Deputy Bureau Chief Yao, your daughter tipped off a boy from our school who has been hanging out with gangsters all year round. She got him to bring a bunch of gangsters to the hotel to cause trouble for me. Yi Qian's words had just started when the couple's faces changed. Without waiting for Mother Yao to step forward to stop him, Yi Qian's voice was as cold as a blizzard. Every word he said was heavy and cold. "Deputy Bureau Chief Yao, you and your wife promised in the principal's office that you would discipline your daughter and not make things difficult for me, much less do anything against me. It hasn't even been a month since the promise was made and you've forgotten it completely. You didn't even restrain your daughter's words and actions." At that time, Deputy Bureau Chief Yao said that if Yao Jing were to cause trouble for me again, you would take the initiative to transfer her to another school. Now, I'd like to ask, can a dignified government official's promise be confirmed one by one and live up to it? His stern voice and imposing manner were majestic, like the raging waves on the surface of the sea beating against the shore. It agitated the Yao family to the point that their complexions turned from deathly white to miserable cold, and even more so, they couldn't conceal their monstrous rage. Mother Yao, who wanted to hide her daughter's actions from the Yang family, asked sharply, "Yi Qian, don't think that just because you're the daughter of a martyr, you can humiliate my daughter 3 times. Even if you want to, I won't let you off so easily. Her daughter had been at a disadvantage in front of Yi Qian and had even been exposed by Yi Qian. How could Mother Yao hold herself back? She shielded her daughter behind her and yelled even louder, "Jing Jing, stand still for mommy. I've taught you since you were young that you can admit defeat, but you can't lower your head. If you're bullied, then you have to bully back. Very good. Since you don't want to deal with the aftermath, then I'll have to file a report to the police. You want to pretend that you didn't scheme against me? Yao Jing, I'd like to see if you're smarter than the police." Facing Mother Yao, Yi Qian's expression didn't show any signs of fear. Every word he said made the hearts of those listening tremble. Call the police. What exactly happened? Why did they need to call the police? Bureau Chief Yang realized that this matter wasn't a small one, so he said in a deep voice, "Go to the tea room and explain what's going on. If it really escalates to the point of calling the police, old Yao, you're going to be tested soon. Don't embarrass yourself." Yi Qian's words made the Yao family tremble in fear. Then, Chief Yang's words made the Yao family calm down. The domineering mother glared fiercely at Yi Qian and said stiffly, "Old Yang, no matter how big the child's matter gets, it won't go to the police. Don't be scared by her." How could the director of the Transportation Bureau be intimidated by a little girl? Director Yang smiled and shook his head. Old Yao and his wife had been promoted quickly in the past few years. They were a little arrogant and lacked a peaceful heart. They began to use their power to oppress others when things were not going well. If this continued, they would regret it for the rest of their lives. Old Yang is right. Let's sit down and talk. I like Yi Qian very much. He has a sense of propriety. I believe that he won't speak without evidence. Mother Yang didn't like adults being aggressive to children. When she saw Yi Qian standing alone facing the Yao couple, she sighed in her heart. She gently held Yi Qian's hand and patted it. She solemnly said, "Don't be afraid. Anything can be solved. As long as you have evidence, no matter how difficult it is, it won't be a problem." Chapter 843. Yi Qian, who was not afraid, pursed his lips and smiled. "Auntie, I'm not afraid. I won't be afraid of things that I'm sure of. If I'm not sure of something, I won't use the excuse of, 'I only saw it, I don't know,' to slander others and clear my name." When Yao Jing heard the word, "call the police," she couldn't help but tighten her grip on Deputy Commissioner Yao's arm. Her lips trembled slightly, but her voice was still steady. "Dad, we can't let her call the police. Let Mom calm down and not blow this matter up. I know you and Mom don't want me to be wronged, but I've implicated you and Mom in this matter. She was just a child, a tactful student. She was usually not afraid of trouble, but when trouble came, how could she not be afraid?" Although Yao Jing was afraid, she wouldn't hide behind her parents because of fear. Calling the police was the last thing she wanted to see. It was also the thing she was most afraid of. Once the police were called, with Luo Ran's cowardice, he would definitely tell the police everything she had said and suggested to clear her name. Even if Luo Ran wouldn't, his parents would find a way to make him say it. Hearing his daughter's words, Deputy Commissioner Yao's heart felt as if a huge rock had smashed into his chest. He couldn't help but close his eyes slightly. "You're too impatient, Jing Jing. Too impatient, too narrow-minded, too impatient for success." Yao Jing pursed her lips, her eyes filled with tears. "Dad, I didn't expect her to be so ruthless. She didn't give anyone a way out. I didn't expect it, I really didn't expect it." She really didn't expect Yi Qian to mention calling the police. She also didn't expect Uncle Yang and his family to stand by Yi Qian. Taking a deep breath, Yao Jing gently tugged at her mother. "Mom, don't say anything. Let me handle this." This matter is between Yi Qian and me. I can't let you be implicated. This is my own matter. Jing Jing. Mother Yao, who was originally full of confidence, suddenly heard her daughter's words. Her heart sank and tightened. What are you hiding from us? It's the matter between Yi Qian and me that's hidden from you and Dad. Please calm down. After Yao Jing finished speaking, Mother Yao's heart ached and felt waves of bitterness. Her daughter was actually a sensible person. Unfortunately, her opponent was Yi Qian, a strong opponent. She didn't have the ability to deal with him. She didn't have the ability to defeat him. Why did I know that you sent Yang Hangs? Because I know that you and Luo Ran had a duel at the back alley behind the bar street. Yao Jing stood up and stood in front of Yi Jian. She straightened her back and said coldly, because I know. That's why I guessed that Yang Hang and the others went out to fight. Yi Jian smiled. No wonder. No wonder. I was wondering why I saw Luo Ran appear in the hotel with more than 10 hooligans as soon as I walked out of the banquet hall. I didn't even have to rush over. It turns out that you were the one who tipped me off. I was wondering why you avoided me every time you saw me in school. It turns out that you were afraid that I would suspect you. What a pity, Yao Jing. You're so smart, but you still miscalculated. Yi Qian, don't try to quibble here. You dragged a group of boys out to fight. How shameless are you? Was last Jing going to insist that Heng Heng went out to fight in a gang fight? She was going to insist that Yi Qian provoked some shady people and even dragged Heng Heng into it as well. Chapter 844. Mother Yang's originally calm expression turned cold. Even her voice was filled with displeasure. Jing girl, you really have no evidence to back up your words. When you made a mistake in junior high school, I thought you were young and ignorant. Who would have thought that you're still in your second year of high school? Shu He, you know that I don't like adults interfering with children's matters. A few years ago, in order to let Jing girl study in peace, you pulled some strings to get the girl who hosted the program with Heng Heng kicked out of school. I didn't say anything, but that doesn't mean I didn't know. Shu He, Mother Yao's name. They're both students, but you clearly know that there are bad people in society who came to bully your students. Not only did you not tell the adults, but you were also afraid that they wouldn't spread the news. Jing girl, Auntie doesn't understand what intentions you have. You're actually this ruthless. It seems that fortunately, I came forward and sent that girl to the capital to study. If she were to study in the provincial capital, with Jing girl's ruthlessness, she would have killed her. When she was really angry, the words she said weren't so pleasant to hear. Hui Ying. Mother Yao screamed. She couldn't believe that her old neighbor would say such things about her daughter. When the junior high school incident was mentioned, the Yao family of 3 was shocked. Now that they heard Mother Yang say ruthless, the one who couldn't accept it the most was Yao Jing. She originally maintained a proud expression, but now her whole body was shaking a few times. Auntie Song, who liked her, actually said that she was ruthless. She even knew about the junior high school incident. How could it be? How did Auntie Song know? What about Yang Heng? Yang Heng. Yao Jing's pupils suddenly shrank. She looked up and stared at Yang Heng. She wanted to see a clue from his face, but she didn't dare to hear him say anything that would embarrass her even more. She just stared at him. Mother Yang had already moved her gaze away from Mother Yao. She had been holding Yi Qian's hand. From her behavior, it could be seen that she was standing on Yi Qian's side. Her behavior made Mother Yao's mouth burst with bitterness. It was as if she had eaten Chinese gold thread, but she couldn't say anything. Looking at Mother Yang, then looking at the indifferent bureau chief Yang, and finally seeing Yang Heng, Mother Yao's eyes flashed with splendor. That's right, as long as Yang Heng was with Jing Jing, everything would be fine. Heng Heng, you grew up with Jing Jing. She's a soft-hearted child who cries when she sees others cry. Tell me quickly. Don't let your mother misunderstand Jing Jing. As long as Heng Heng showed up, no matter how deep Hui Ying's misunderstanding of Jing Jing was, it would definitely be resolved. For a moment, Mother Yao placed all her hopes on Yang Heng. However, only when Yang Heng opened his mouth did he know what a blow was. Yao Jing, Wang Jin and I have been looking for Yi Qian in the hotel. We don't even know where she went. Yang Heng spoke coldly under Mother Yao's hopeful gaze. His clean and handsome face made Yao Jing extremely flustered. At that time, I didn't understand why you came over to blame Yi Qian. Now I know. You came to the hotel to block Yi Qian. After seeing that Wang Jin was injured, you tried to turn Yi Qian into a bad girl who only knows how to coax boys to stand up for her. I can tell you seriously and responsibly that we didn't even know what Yi Qian was doing outside. Luo Ran brought people to the hotel, and we didn't know at all. If I had known, I would have taught Luo Ran a lesson myself. I definitely wouldn't have chosen to stand by and watch. As for your actions, I only want to say, Yao Jing, you are despicable. Chapter 845. She had hoped that Yang Heng would put in a few good words for her daughter, but in the end, he actually called Jing Jing despicable. Mother Yao's expression was torn apart. Her eyes were cold as she stared at Yang Heng. Word by word, she said coldly, Heng Heng, you disappoint Auntie. Shu He, this is my son. Mother Yang would not allow anyone to bully her son like this. She glanced at the old neighbor who was still worried about her daughter. The disappointment in her heart was so deep that Mother Yang's face showed alienation. After Yang Heng finished speaking, Yao Jing felt as if she had been struck by lightning. Yang Heng said she was despicable. In order to protect Yi Qian, he hurt her like this. Her face was pale as she stared blankly at Yang Heng. She didn't hear anything. She didn't hear anything. Yang Heng wouldn't say that about her. He wouldn't say that about an outsider. Why would he say that about her for an outsider? Who does Yi Qian think he is? She had only known Yang Heng for less than 2 months. She had grown up with him and had known him for more than 10 years. Yao Jing clenched her fists as she stood beside her mother. Her mind was blank. The more she tried to calm herself down, the more she couldn't control her urge to cry. She didn't understand. She really didn't understand why Yang Heng would help Yi Qian. Why, Yang Heng, why are you doing this? Tears fell from her eyes. She had never shown weakness in front of others, but now she was crying because of the boy she liked. Moreover, she was crying in front of Yi Qian. Yi Qian, what bad things did Yi Qian say to Yang Heng to make him hate her so much? Was it because she secretly warned the students who tried to get close to Yang Heng? Was it because she had once begged her parents to kick out the girl who practiced her lines with Yang Heng every day and chased Yang Heng out of school? Why didn't he say it before? Why didn't he stand up and say that he hated her? If you don't like it, why didn't you say it? Since you don't like it, why didn't you tell me yourself? At this time, Yao Jing only wanted to ask Yang Heng why, but Yi Qian put it aside. Everything she did was for Yang Heng. Now that he said that, she was not reconciled. Mother Yao saw that her daughter's attention was on Yang Heng, but Yang Heng was helping Yi Qian to bully her daughter. She glared at Yi Qian anxiously and angrily. Yi Qian, what did you say about Yao Jing to Heng Heng? You're just a girl, but you're actually so vicious. For your own despicable motives, you didn't hesitate to abandon the most basic morals of a human to frame Yao Jing. Tell me now, Jingjing's father and I are listening. What do you want to achieve? What do you want? Tell us. As long as we can satisfy you, we will satisfy you. I only ask that you be magnanimous and let my Jingjing go. I will be forever grateful to you. Mother Yao's words were a disaster. She wanted to put all the blame on Yi Qian, but she had seen Yi Qian's ability to deal with every move, so she spoke quickly and hurriedly. She wanted Director Yang and Mother Yang to hear her words and stop Yang Heng from standing up to criticize Yao Jing. What she wanted now was for someone to stop Yang Heng and stop him from saying things that her daughter couldn't accept. Her daughter had already been wronged by Yi Qian, so how could she bear Yang Heng's criticism? Chapter 846. She didn't want her daughter to be wronged and Yi Qian to be accused of something he didn't do. Yi Qian's eyes darkened as he stared at the heartless Mother Yao. His tone was flat as he said, "Vicious people always judge others by their own standards. They always think that others will do the same bad things as them and live in fear. Once something really happens, they will immediately jump out and righteously accuse them of being the vicious ones." Facing Mother Yao's accusation, Yi Qian's expression was indifferent as if he was looking at an unreasonable scoundrel. He didn't care much about it, but he didn't let it go either. Although his tone was light, his words were sharp enough to make Mother Yao's heart wrench in pain. You. Mother Yao's heart wrenched in pain for a long time. Her face was ashen as Mother Yang frowned. She finally said, "Even an adult like me can't win against you. No wonder my daughter has suffered losses in your hands so many times. Deceitful and unreasonable." Mother Yang was highly educated and a very gentle intellectual. When she heard this, she flew into a rage. "Shu He, Yi Qian is clearly being polite, but you are being aggressive for Jing. You said that Yi Qian is vicious, but I want to ask. What is it that you joined forces with a bunch of hoodlums and came to the hotel to beat up Yi Qian? Can I say that I'm as vicious as a snake or a scorpion? Everyone has the right to punish me." Bureau Chief Yang had always respected his wife. Seeing her so angry that her shoulders were trembling, he said to Deputy Bureau Chief Yao with a serious face, "Old Yao, I've seen once again how protective your family is. You've really broadened my horizons to such an extent. Using other people's children's dignity in exchange for your own children's laughter. Old Yao, your family really has a good upbringing." It was originally a matter between Yi Qian and Yao Jing. Unknowingly, it became a matter between Yi Qian, Yao Jing, and Yang Heng. Then, with the addition of Deputy Bureau Chief Yao and his wife who were eager to protect their children, the whole matter escalated. Yang Heng had been sneering for a long time when he heard Mother Yao distort right and wrong and accuse Yi Qian of being vicious. When Bureau Chief Yang finished speaking, his voice became colder and deeper. During the military training, Yao Jing instigated Luo Ran to catch poisonous snakes from the mountains and threw them on Yi Qian. She said that since there were many snakes in the mountains, Yi Qian wouldn't suspect Luo Ran even if he bit them to death. On the second day of the military training, one of the instructors caught a snake. Yi Qian happened to be resting with the instructors, so he took care of the snake in the instructor's hands. There were witnesses who saw this and knew that Yao Jing's plan to make Luo Ran catch a snake and bite Yi Qian to death didn't work. Then, Yao Jing found Luo Ran during our lunch break and asked him to teach Yi Qian a lesson. Who knew that after the first plan failed, the second plan failed again? Luo Ran was suspected of causing trouble during the military training and was directly asked to return to school by the army. I think that when Yao Jing found out that Luo Ran didn't succeed again, she must have been very angry. After all, she was the one who came up with the plan in the dark. It was clearly something that could have worked, but in the end, it didn't. Yang Heng never caused trouble outside of school, but he never caused trouble at home. The school was enough to prove his ability to handle things. At this moment, with every word he said, Yao Jing's face turned paler. Even her lips were gradually turning pale. How could it be? How did Yang Heng know? How did he know? That's right, Yang Heng knew everything. Yi Qian was looking at him. These things, she didn't know, so how did he know? Chapter 847. How do you know about this? Yi Qian, what did you say to Yang Heng? What did you say? Yi Qian and Yao Jing asked at the same time. It was such a coincidence that when Yao Jing heard Yi Qian ask the same question, she leaned into her mother's arms. She was a smart person. How could a smart person not know what kind of negative impact this coincidence would have on her? Yi Qian didn't know, which meant that she didn't know what Yao Jing did. Naturally, she wouldn't say bad things about her to Yang Heng. However, Yao Jing said, Yi Qian, what did you say to Yang Heng? While questioning Yi Qian, she also admitted to all the bad things she did. However, she also questioned why Yi Qian told Yang Heng about all the bad things she did. In the end, Yi Qian didn't even know what bad things Yao Jing did. Facing Yao Jing's accusations, Mother Yang could clearly see how vicious Yao Jing was. Not only did she not admit to her mistakes, but she also turned around to bite others. Mother Yang's evaluation of her was that she was as vicious as a snake. An unexpected coincidence made the faces of the Yao family's 3 members change greatly. It also made them even more flustered because of the presence of Bureau Chief Yang and Mother Yang. Hearing this, Deputy Director Yao, who had always been calm, frowned. He stared at his daughter and asked calmly, in other words, what Heng Heng said is true. You did do these things, right? Seeing her daughter's face full of fear and helplessness, Mother Yao, who also wanted to question whether it was true or not, suddenly softened. She secretly glared at her husband. Whether Jing Jing did it or not, how could she let her daughter admit it again? Wouldn't it make the Yang family feel disgusted with Jing Jing again? Huiying didn't like girls who did things secretly. She turned to Yang Heng and said, Heng Heng, Jing is just naughty. She's usually really. She wanted to continue saying that her daughter was wrong because she was naughty and immature. She wasn't usually like this. Before she could finish, Mother Yao heard Yi Qian chuckle softly. She immediately glared at Yi Qian and reprimanded him coldly. Yi Qian, didn't anyone teach you not to interrupt people rudely? I'm sorry. Everyone taught me to be sincere, to have a pure heart, to be magnanimous at all times, and to do things with integrity. No one taught me that I can use mischievous and insensible as an excuse to avoid my mistakes. Yi Qian said calmly. He was not worried that he would be scolded by Mother Yao for no reason. He looked at Deputy Bureau Chief Yao with a cold smile. Deputy Bureau Chief Yao, I'm worried for you. Yao Jing is already 17 years old, but you're always treating her like a 3-year-old retarded child. I just didn't fall into Yao Jing's trap, and your wife said that I'm vicious. It can be seen that Deputy Bureau Chief Yao's way of educating his children is unique. No wonder Deputy Bureau Chief Yao was able to rise in his career. Just by relying on this unconventional way of education, it can be seen. Mother Yang, who was originally angry, couldn't help but smile. This Xiao Yi was indeed interesting. He hid a needle in the silk floss, and every needle pierced into the Yao family's heart. He wanted to let them know that they were not easy to bully. Deputy Bureau Chief Yao, who was embarrassed by Bureau Chief Yang and Yi Qian's words, could only sigh. If he participated in this matter again, the Yao family's face would be lost. Chapter 848. A dignified deputy bureau chief bickering with a student in the hotel lobby. If word of this spread to his unit, how would he have the face to control his subordinates? Mother Yao's hand clutched her chest. Pain, her heart was in so much pain right now. This Yi Qian was so eloquent that she, a dignified office director, couldn't do anything to him. Yao Jing saw that her parents were forced into silence. She fiercely wiped the tears from her eyes and said firmly, "I'll take responsibility for my own actions. I admit to what I did. Don't make things difficult for my parents." "I made things difficult for your parents." Yi Jian looked as if she had just heard the biggest joke in the world. Her cold gaze swept over them. "Why don't we invite Director Yang, Auntie Song, and the staff who are still in the hotel lobby to testify and ask everyone if I was the one who made things difficult for your parents?" Yao Jing immediately raised her eyes and looked around. After looking around, she retracted her gaze in panic. Someone was secretly looking at them, someone was looking at her family. No, she couldn't talk here. She had to find another place where others couldn't see her. How could she let others think that her family was bullying Yi Qian? It was clearly Yi Qian who was bullying her. Yang Heng. Yao Jing held back her tears and looked at Yang Heng pitifully. She didn't dare to beg Bureau Chief Yang and his wife anymore. Ever since Yang Heng revealed what she had done, she didn't dare to. She didn't even dare to look at Yang Heng's mother. Yang Heng's heart didn't waver at all when he saw her tears and her pitiful expression. He glanced at her face and turned to the embarrassed and angry mother. "Auntie, you just said that Yi Qian humiliated Yao Jing and accused Yi Qian of being vicious for no reason. As a junior, I can't say that you don't know how to distinguish right from wrong, but there are some words that I have to say regardless of whether you are happy or angry. In your eyes, you only see Yao Jing's grievance. You don't know that the reason why she was wronged was because Yi Qian didn't jump into her trap. So, she felt wronged and failed. She felt that she couldn't even deal with a classmate who had no parents. She felt wronged, angry, and unhappy. You and Uncle Yao, on the other hand, think that it's someone else's fault that your daughter was wronged, angry, and unhappy. She instigated a boy to throw a poisonous snake at Yi Qian. Do you think this is kindness or evil? Letting a boy hit Yi Qian on the road, do you think this is kind or evil? Calling the hooligans of society to surround Yi Qian in the hotel, do you think this is kind or vicious? Yi Qian didn't do anything. He didn't even know what Yao Jing was doing in the dark, yet you're saying that she's vicious. Then, let me ask you, Yao Jing has done so many things, is her heart evil? Or kindness? Mother Yao, who was blushing from Yang Heng's words, was speechless for a long time. She clutched her chest and took deep breaths. This child really did not let go of her mistakes. After a long sigh, Mother Yao said earnestly, Heng, Jing is still young and doesn't know anything. As a parent, I can't bear for her to be wronged. Auntie believes that your parents are the same. So that's what Auntie thinks. You can't let your own child be wronged. It doesn't matter if someone else's child is wronged to the point that they have to transfer to another school. In any case, it's not your child, so you don't feel bad. After Yang Heng said so much, even Yi Qian retreated to the side. She wanted to say something, but Mother Yang pulled her and smiled. Let Yang Heng come forward. He knows how to deal with it. Chapter 849. Without his parents' support, Yang Heng wouldn't have been able to face the Yao family. Now that things had escalated to this point, if he didn't draw a clear line between himself and Yao Jing, he wouldn't be able to get rid of her in the future. Thus, he might as well tell them everything that was on his mind. The boy's voice was crisp and clear, indirectly slapping the Yao couple in the face. In your and Uncle Yao's eyes, your own children are treasures that you have to pamper. What about other people's children? They are born to be trampled on. Not only should you not be angry after being taught a lesson by Yao Jing, you should instead thank her for thinking so highly of you. You and Uncle Yao think that other people didn't jump into Yao Jing's trap because they didn't know what was good for them. They shouldn't have not jumped into Yao Jing's trap and made her unhappy. Sentence after sentence, Mother Yao, who was about to faint, couldn't stand steadily. Fortunately, Yao Jing, who was standing beside her, supported her and grabbed her daughter's arm. The corner of Mother Yao's mouth twitched, and she squeezed out a smile. Hang hang, isn't it because Jing Jing? Yang Hing gently interrupted Mother Yao's words and smiled politely. What you want to say is that it's because she likes me, right? Just because she likes me, she can ask uncle, and auntie to come forward and kick that girl out of junior high school. Just because she likes me, she can attack Yi Qian as she pleases. Just because she likes me, she can secretly warn all the girls who have come into contact with me. Just because she likes me, she wants to catch a poisonous snake to bite Yi Qian when she sees Yi Qian walking close to me. She also wants to get some hooligans to beat up Yi Qian. Auntie, don't let her like me. I can't bear her terrifying love. I don't have the right to scold your daughter, but I can tell you that if she continues to use the excuse of liking me to make enemies for me and hurt my friends, I won't care how close you are to my family, and I won't give Yao Jing any face. Although he was laughing, the mockery in his laughter made Deputy Director Yao and his wife's ears turn red. They wished they could disappear immediately. Mother Yao was a woman, and as the director, she had real power. Usually, she was treated with respect, and no one dared to say anything to her. Now that she was being mocked by a child that she had watched grow up, her face completely lost, and her face turned to the color of a pig's liver. His face was burning with pain, and his heart was twisting in pain. He had completely lost all his face. Hang hang, you really don't give Auntie any face. Yes, you're right. Auntie spoiled Jing Jing. It's Auntie's fault. It's Auntie's fault to do. It's Auntie who taught her. She's a good child. She listens to whatever her parents say. It's Auntie's fault. I shouldn't have taught her that. You're right. This isn't for her own good. It's harming her. Harming her. In order to protect Yao Jing's reputation, Mother Yao took all the blame. She just didn't want her future son-in-law to hate her daughter. Chapter 850. Yao Jing, who had been crying, hid behind Mother Yao, not daring to come out. She was so flustered that she didn't even have the courage to speak. She glanced at Yi Jian from the corner of her eyes and saw her standing together with Mother Yang. Yi Jian was wearing a clean school uniform, and the smile on her face was also clean. It was the clearest contrast to her embarrassing appearance. Yao Jing felt as if her face had been slapped dozens of times in an instant, and she felt her face hurt. When everything was revealed, all of her secrets were exposed in front of the people she wanted to attack and take revenge on. It was so embarrassing that all of her pride was crushed into powder. Yao Jing, whose neck felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds, couldn't raise her head. Deputy Commissioner Yao and his wife also couldn't raise their heads. Those secret matters, they had solved them in private. They thought that the Yang family wouldn't know, but who knew? Who knew that they actually knew? What a joke, what a joke. They thought that they had deceived everyone, but who knew that they were just pretending not to know? At this time, they were embarrassed by this joke. Yang Heng lowered his eyes slightly, pursed his lips, and asked softly, could it be that Yao Jing called people over to beat up Yi Qian because of your orders? Auntie, I'm not a 3-year-old child. I understand what you mean, but I can't accept it. Wrong is wrong. What she did to Yi Qian has nothing to do with you. It's her problem. Mother Yao was speechless. She was shocked. Yang Heng, this child, actually hated her daughter to this extent. She was so sorry, but he still didn't comfort Yao Jing. Anxious and angry, Mother Yao, who hated her daughter for not living up to expectations, suddenly turned around and raised her hand. Using all her strength, she gave Yao Jing a tight slap on the face. The slap was so loud that it made people's hearts jump. Yao Jing, you've disappointed us too much. You've done things wrong again and again. You've disappointed your mother too much. She was too disappointed. Everything she did let Yang Heng know. Not only did she not defeat others, but she also lost herself. Since she was young, she had been taught to do things steadily and surely. She absolutely couldn't be stupid enough to lose herself while doing things. Look at what she did today. As her parents, they had no way to salvage the situation for her. It was a good game of chess, but now, it had become a dead move, a bad move. Yao Jing was stunned by the sudden slap. In all her memories, no matter what she did, she would always be praised by her parents. This time, she was actually slapped. Last time, Yi Qian had hit her. Even though she had apologized to Yi Qian, her parents still made it up to her when she got home so that she would feel better. This time, she actually hit her in front of Yi Qian. Shuhe, why don't you take Jing back home? I think she must have been frightened tonight. Mother Yang was kind. Although she didn't like Yao Jing's behavior, she didn't want to push her too far. Go back and rest. Heng Heng's meaning is clear. I don't want to force my son to accept someone he doesn't like. Jing, it's your business who you like. Auntie won't interfere. But if you want to be Yang Heng's girlfriend, let me tell you now, it's absolutely impossible. Huiying. Mother Yao was anxious. She pulled Mother Yang's sleeve and explained with a guilty face, you know Jing, she's just a little immature. I will. Chapter 851. Mother Yang, who was quite annoyed, didn't show it on her face. She just faintly looked at her old neighbor who had been with her for more than 10 years. Yao Jing isn't young anymore. Little Yi is right. You always say that Yao Jing is young and insensible. Then what about Yi Qian, who you scolded for being vicious? Is she an adult? Is she older than Yao Jing? Must she be sensible? Must she give in to Yao Jing? Must she let your Yao Jing ruin her? You don't need to say more or quibble. We've been neighbors for 10 years. I don't want our relationship to be like enemies. Little Jing isn't young anymore. I can't accept what she has done. Vicious, unsympathetic, and irresponsible. Such a child is insensible in your eyes, but in my eyes, I'm sorry. I will never accept such a daughter-in-law. Mother Yang's words were like a real double-edged sword, stabbing into Mother Yao's eyes. Huiying, people aren't saints. How can you, from 4 years ago until now? Shuhe, if you continue to speak, the relationship between our two families will really be broken. Mother Yang shielded Yi Qian by her side, blocking Mother Yao's sharp line of sight. Little Yi, I will protect this child in the future. It just so happens that I have always regretted that I don't have a daughter. She is 1 year younger than Yang Heng and we hit it off very well. I like her in my heart. As for little Jing, it's better if she doesn't interact with Yang Heng in the future to avoid misunderstandings. Mother Yao, who was feeling suffocated, breathed rapidly and made a puff 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 sound. What did Huiying mean? What did she want to tell her? Hit it off with Yi Qian. They just met tonight and she said they hit it off. She even said that she regretted not having a daughter. What did she mean? Without a daughter, she recognized Yi Qian as her daughter-in-law. How could she be so careless? They only knew each other for a few hours and they already knew each other. Didn't she say that she wasn't in a hurry? Why was she in a hurry now? No. Li Shuhe was optimistic about the Yang family. She knew them well. They were all good-tempered. With Jing's ability, she could completely control them. They must not fall into Yi Qian's hands. Absolutely not. Mother Yang's words completely stepped on Mother Yao's taut nerves. She winked at her husband, wiped her tears, and whispered, "Huiying, I made you so angry that you became muddle-headed. You even said such hasty words." Okay. It's my fault. I'll apologize to you. You. Deputy Director Yao, who was afraid that Yang Heng would expose what Yao Jing had done, signaled him to quickly think of a way to stabilize the Yang family. Deputy Bureau Chief Yao didn't speak again because he was a dignified Deputy Bureau Chief. How could he go against the children of his old friend? If his wife and daughter came forward, at least he could preserve some dignity in front of Bureau Chief Yang. Not only did he have to save some face, but he also had to ask old Yang to calm things down tonight. No matter what his daughter did, it was disgraceful and she would be criticized and looked down upon. Receiving his wife's signal, he looked at his daughter who had a few red finger marks on her face. He pointed to the sofa in the lobby and sighed, "Old Yang, let's talk in private." Alas, this matter, I really regret not taking good care of little Jing. It was no longer a matter of bickering. It was a matter of helping his daughter get out of trouble and making Yi Qian give face to the Yang family and not pursue his daughter's mistakes. This was the most important matter. Chapter 852. Director Yang acted as the peacemaker. It was not wise for him to cut off all ties with the Yao family for the sake of his daughter's affairs. As an official, he could be at odds with his colleagues because of work, but he would be too narrow-minded if he drifted apart because of his family's affairs. Okay, let's talk somewhere else. I'm worried about you now. This matter is obviously easy to solve. Look at you. He walked towards the sofa in the lobby, and his voice gradually disappeared from Yi Qian's ears. Yang Heng, who had been standing to Yi Qian's right, saw this and said softly, "My dad has stepped in. This matter might have to be put to rest tonight. Yao Jing can't drop out of school like Ying. I'm afraid my dad will ruin it." "How do you know that I want Yao Jing to leave school?" Yi Qian pursed his lips and smiled. His eyes were as clear as water, without a trace of gloominess. Yang Heng did not understand what he meant. Yi Qian glanced at Yao Jing, who was pretending to be a quail and trying to calm herself down. He smiled coldly and said, "Yao Jing is not Ying. We can't use the same method on her. Yao Jing can endure and will not jump out at the slightest provocation. Ying likes to jump out, so I need to get her out of school as soon as possible." "You mean to say that Yao Jing is safer in school?" "That's right. School is an invisible restraint for her. With her pride, she will be afraid if things get out of hand. She is afraid that people will look down on her and say that she is two-faced. After this incident, she will at least be more honest in school." After she finished speaking, Yang Heng secretly gave her a thumbs up. Good. I've known Yao Jing for so many years, and I've always had a headache dealing with her. You've only known her for a month and you've already found her weakness. Yi Qian, you're amazing. The boy's smile was clean, like the sunlight reflected on the surface of the water in summer. It was so refreshing that people couldn't help but smile along with him. Yang Heng was capable, clean, and resourceful. He was also disdainful of using underhanded means. It was indeed a good choice to be friends with such a man. Yao Jing, who was hiding behind Mother Yao, looked at the two of them whispering to each other. Her eyes were filled with layers of darkness, and there was no light in them at all. It was a darkness that seemed to have broken her core. This kind of person was terrifying. He had a certain level of strength and a flexible brain. He liked to scheme against them in the dark. He was like a poisonous snake hiding in the dark. Just thinking about it made people tremble in fear. Mother Yao and Mother Yang kept apologizing to each other. Deputy Bureau Chief Yao, who was sitting on the sofa, sat down and sighed with a frown. Old Yang, I've made a fool of myself. I'm ashamed. Deputy Bureau Chief Yao raised his hand and lightly thumped his forehead, complaining about his difficulties. Jing Jing is my only daughter, how could I bear to let her be wronged? Today, Heng Heng's words reminded me that if my own child is a treasure, other people's child is also a treasure. Director Yang had never interfered with these family matters and left it all to his wife to deal with. When he heard this, he only smiled and said, "That's a separate matter. You know that I don't care about the children's matters and don't interfere. It's even more impossible for me to show up for the matters between my children. Old Yao, you and your wife both came out of the education system. I still remember how righteous you were when you criticized a child for stealing. But when it comes to your own daughter, sigh, let's not talk about it." Chapter 853. If he didn't want to talk about it, it meant that he didn't want to talk about it. If he didn't even want to talk about it, then there wasn't much to talk about the relationship between the two families. Deputy Bureau Chief Yao's expression changed again and again. He didn't want to give up and said, "Let the two children handle it. As adults, we don't care anymore. We don't care anymore. Yes, we don't care anymore. Heng Heng is already 18 years old and has his own judgment. I didn't care about his matters in the past, and I won't care about it in the future. Let him handle it himself." This old Yao was a wily old fox. He was trying to see if there was any possibility of them becoming in-laws in front of him. Anxious, anxious, too anxious. Bureau Chief Yang sighed deeply. He glanced at Mother Yao, who was unable to maintain her composure because of her son's words and still wanted to explain a little more. This matter had come to an end. As for calling the police, he looked at Xiao Yi, who had a calm and indifferent expression from the beginning to the end, and did not take it seriously. An interesting little girl who could control the situation. She had the air of a general. "Sigh, it's our fault. We can't raise the children like this." Deputy Bureau Chief Yao sighed. He sighed because his family had made a wrong move. Now, it was difficult to make the two children happy. "Old Yang, you have to help me. Little Jing made a mistake. I will definitely teach her a lesson when we get home." But Yi Qian said to call the police. "You saw it too. This child is also a person of her words. I'm really worried that she will call the police. I hope you can persuade her to be magnanimous and forgive little Jing this time. She couldn't call the police. If she really did, the whole family would be affected. It would be even harder for Jing Jing to survive in school." Mother Yao waited anxiously and dragged Mother Yang away. "Hui Ying, I know you are very disappointed. Believe me, I will definitely criticize her and make sure she doesn't make any mistakes again." Also, she had to make Jing Jing apologize to the Yang family. She couldn't let the Yang family think that Jing Jing didn't even know the most basic manners. Yes, she also had to apologize to Yi Qian. She had to ask him to forgive Jing Jing and not pursue the matter. Just now, he had also made a mistake. He was anxious that his daughter had been wronged, so he had recklessly stood up for her. Not only did he not protect his daughter, but he had also made things more complicated. He had even made Yang Heng say such hurtful words like Jing Jing was despicable. Mother Yang didn't open her mouth and let Mother Yao continue to speak good words. No matter how good her flowery words were, a girl like Yao Jing must be kept away from. Soon, Director Yang walked over. Deputy Director Yao, who was one step behind, nodded slightly to his wife, indicating that the matter was settled. After receiving her husband's signal, Mother Yao, whose back was drenched in sweat, relaxed. That's good. As long as old Yang stepped in, everything would be fine. My dad is here. He's here to be the peacemaker. Yang Hang's teasing made Yi Qian tilt his head and smile. It was late, so it was time to leave. Director Yang walked directly to Yi Jian's side and did not beat around the bush. He sighed and went straight to the point. Xiao Yi, can you let this matter go today for the sake of your uncle? Uncle knows that you have been wronged, but who in this world can have a smooth sailing life? Sometimes, being wronged is also part of your growth experience. Calling the police was just Yi Qian's plan to trick Yao Jing. He wanted her to know if she had leaked information to Luo Ran. Now that the truth was out, how could she go to the police? He had injured 7 hoodlums and scared Luo Ran until he fainted. Thus, he slightly curved his lips and smiled. I will listen to your arrangements. Whatever you say, I will listen. Chapter 854. All right. Then I'll make the decision. Director Yang nodded approvingly at Yi Qian. This child was like a deep pool of water. Deep water was good. Deep water was the best. Deep water was the best. Deep water was quiet, but shallow water was noisy. To achieve great things, one had to be able to pick up and let go. With him stepping in today, no matter how upset Yao Jing was, she had to suppress it. And the Yao family couldn't do anything to Yi Qian. For the sake of the Yang family, they wouldn't dare. Yi Qian also thought of this point. It was inappropriate for the army to step in and suppress the Yao family. It would only make the Yao family more cautious and restrain themselves. Now that Director Yang stepped in, it wasn't just a matter of restraint. They had to restrain themselves. Yao Jing was upset. She had to be. He didn't have to step in to make her accept. It was the Yao family who had to make her accept. Yao Jing, Dad will settle this for you. Mom's slap will calm your Auntie Song's anger and let Yi Qian know our attitude as adults. Now, apologize to Yi Qian. Remember, you have to apologize. Otherwise, she will tell the school what you did. You're finished. Your reputation will be ruined. Mother Yao warned and lectured in secret. Yao Jing, who was stunned by the slap, had no choice but to accept the fact that she had to apologize to Yi Qian again. Remember, what we're doing now is for your own good. Yao Jing, whose tears had almost dried up, lowered her head and listened obediently. However, the viciousness in her eyes was even more obvious. She calmed down a little and nodded. I know, Mom. That's good. That's good. I know that my Jing Jing is a good girl. She won't disappoint us. Mother Yao stroked her daughter's hair. Seeing the handprint she left on her daughter's delicate face, she regretted that she had slapped her too hard in a fit of anger. She should have just put on an act. Why did she really hit her? Yao Jing was furious, and so was Deputy Director Yao. But so what? He still had to apologize to Yi Jian again and again. I didn't expect my insensible daughter to get into trouble again. I still don't know what kind of trouble she got into. What kind of trouble did I get into that you, a student with a heart smaller than a needle, would not let go? It's not a big deal. Your daughter said it very clearly just now, and I also explained it very clearly. If Deputy Director Yao still doesn't know, you can simply understand it like this. Your daughter is in contact with the gangsters in the society, and they want to teach me a lesson. Yi Qian understood what he was implying. His calm eyes even had a hint of a smile. Deputy Director Yao, you should understand what I'm saying. If you still don't understand, why don't you ask your daughter why she knows those gangsters? Deputy Director Yao, who was still able to maintain his composure, sighed. When I get back, I'll definitely ask her properly. I thought she was young and insensible, but now it seems that I neglected to discipline her. Xiao Yi, I'm really sorry. I clearly said that I wouldn't cause you any more trouble. Who knew that she would come again? He spoke bitterly and with deep helplessness. When he saw that his daughter didn't even have the courage to raise her head after hearing Yang Heng's words, he didn't feel any better. All right, we've let Yang Heng down tonight. We made his birthday unhappy. How about this, old Yang? When you're free, our family will come and apologize again. Tonight, we'll go back first. Sigh, I'm worried now. Children are their parents' debts. Sigh. Chapter 855. He was indeed worried about his daughter, but he didn't think that his daughter had made a grave mistake. There was definitely a mistake, but it wasn't entirely his daughter's fault. His daughter had made a grave mistake by going up against Yi Qian. How could Bureau Chief Yang allow the Yao family to visit him? He patted his old neighbor's shoulder and said with a smile, "My family's matter is a small matter. We're old neighbors. Our children can't play together, but we adults can't have a nod in our hearts. However, I want to remind you that little Jing has to apologize to classmate little Yi. I'll make the decision to let bygones be bygones. Don't take it to heart. After all, you're classmates from the same school." Apologizing to Yi Qian was a small matter. Even if it was embarrassing, she still had to apologize to him under such circumstances. She gritted her teeth and walked out with a few red finger marks on her face. Standing in front of Yi Qian, she lowered her head and said word by word, "I'm sorry, Yi Qian. I shouldn't have informed Luo Ran and the others to come over. I shouldn't have chosen to stand by and watch. If I see this again, I'll definitely tell the teacher first and let him handle it." That's right, that's right. If you had thought of this earlier, there wouldn't have been any of this. His wife was so embarrassed that she didn't want to speak. Only Deputy Bureau Chief Yao could clean up the mess. Seeing his daughter's voice trembling, Deputy Bureau Chief Yao's heart ached for her and he took the initiative to criticize her again. He said to Yi Qian, "She can't be forgiven so easily. I'll definitely give her a good lecture when we get home." Yi Qian sneered. Saying "I'm sorry" immediately after making a mistake might seem polite, but if she only apologized and didn't improve, her "I'm sorry" was really cheap. It's okay. I have to get used to your daughter making mistakes from time to time. Once I get used to it, I don't think I'll need your daughter to apologize to me the next time. Her reply made Deputy Bureau Chief Yao's smile stiffen. Yao Jing, who had finally lowered her head and bowed, glanced fiercely at Yi Qian. He was so aggressive that he didn't leave her any face. "Yi Qian, you're the real vicious one." Endure, she had to endure. Auntie Yang already had a problem with her. If she couldn't tolerate it anymore and went along with it, it would be difficult for her to get close to Yang Heng. She secretly took a deep breath and walked in front of Mother Yang. Even if she secretly mocked herself for only knowing how to apologize and not being able to correct her mistakes, she still had to apologize to Auntie Song. "Auntie, I'm sorry. I just. She sniffled before she could finish her sentence. She sobbed and said intermittently, "I was jealous of Yi Jian. That's why I didn't inform the Lord immediately. Please don't hate me. I was just being impulsive. Auntie, please forgive me. Auntie, can you forgive me? Jing, it's not enough for others to forgive you. I'm not used to your apology, so I can't accept it now." Mother Yang sighed and removed Yao Jing's hand from her arm. She said earnestly, "You need to learn how to be a good person. Even if you have nothing, at least your nature isn't bad. If her nature was bad, would she continue to forgive her in the future even if she forgave her today? After Mother Yang finished speaking, she said to Yi Jian, "Xiao Yi, accompany me back to my room. Your Uncle Yang will make the decision to let bygones be bygones. Nothing will happen in the future, and the things that happened to Yang Heng in junior high will not happen again. Auntie can promise you that you will finish high school smoothly." Chapter 856. Although this child was aggressive just now, she knew when to stop. She said one thing and two things. Her words were sharp, but she had evidence. Even if such a child came from a poor family, she had learned how to be a person. This was a lifetime of wealth, and Yao Jing would never be able to compare to her. The current situation was actually an unexpected gain for Yi Qian. He didn't expect that even Yang Heng's parents would come forward to protect her, which made the Yao family afraid. Hearing this, the smile on his face was brighter than the morning breeze. "I also didn't think of mentioning these things in the future. It's not a good thing. Let bygones be bygones." Yang Heng's mother took her hand and turned to walk into the hotel. Seeing this, Yao Jing was so anxious that she wanted to rush over and pull on Yang Heng's mother's sleeve. "Auntie, I was wrong. I was wrong. Please don't, Yao Jing, my mother's health is not good. I don't want you to make a fuss in front of her." Yang Heng stood up and directly blocked Yao Jing's path. Facing Yao Jing, who had cried until her makeup was ruined, he said lightly, "It's too late. You can go home and rest." Yang Heng bowed slightly to Deputy Bureau Chief Yao and his wife and politely said, "Uncle, Auntie, I won't send you off. Goodbye." Heng, come here." Yang Heng's mother shouted. She didn't want to see her son have any contact with Yao Jing. The older he was, the more he didn't know how to improve. She was also very disappointed with the Yao family. Bureau Chief Yang raised his hand to look at the time and said to Deputy Bureau Chief Yao, "Okay, old Yao, go home. This matter is over." Yang Heng didn't fight, and his classmates didn't fight either. As for what Yi Qian encountered outside, I don't think it's a big deal. Since everyone is safe, don't think too much. Go back and rest. Let's go, I'll send you off. After that, he made a "please" gesture. The two fathers bowed their heads and walked out of the hotel. Yao Jing stood still and watched Yang Heng walk step by step away from her sight. He walked towards Yi Qian without looking back once. Looking at his thin back getting farther and farther away from her, she felt like her heart was being stabbed by a knife. She lost her voice and shouted, "Yang Heng, I hate you. I hate you." Yang Heng smiled. No matter how much she hated him, it had nothing to do with him. From junior high to senior high, ever since he saw her make a mistake, he had advised her countless times and said many good words. A few years had passed, but in exchange, she had become worse. After so long, she had not changed, so be it. He would let her parents worry about it. Mother Yao covered her daughter's mouth. Her heart ached as she whispered, "All right, Jing Jing, go back with Mom. Wasn't it just Yang Heng? What's the big deal? Our Jing Jing is so beautiful and smart. Is she afraid that she can't find a better boyfriend?" Although she said that, Mother Yao didn't have any confidence at all. Her daughter was smart and beautiful, but her temper was too big. If she didn't find a broad-minded husband who knew her well, how could she be at ease? Agitated, Yao Jing struggled and screamed, "Mom, I only want Yang Heng. He belongs to me alone. I like him, so he can only be mine. Mom, I don't want anyone. I don't want anyone." There weren't many people in the hotel, so her screams attracted a lot of attention. The group of people had been talking in the hotel lobby and didn't go to the side rooms. "Mother Yang, who was waiting for the elevator, heard Yao Jing's screams clearly. Chapter 857. When Mother Yang heard these words, the mild-tempered wife of the director was so angry that her face changed. She suppressed the anger in her heart and smiled at Yi Jian. They are all singing in the private room on the 3rd floor. Go and relax with them. Don't be shy. Yang Heng will come down to play with you later. She had something to say to Yang Heng. Yi Qian understood and smiled. Auntie, you are too polite. If Yi Qian was really with Mother Yang, she would feel very uncomfortable. It was better to go and play with her senior brothers and sisters. When the elevator reached the 3rd floor, Yi Qian walked out and waited for the elevator door to close before leaving. Although it was called a private room, it was actually a bar in the hotel. It could accommodate more than 100 people. The flashing lights were colorful and the songs were all Hong Kong and Taiwan songs. Even the senior brothers who were singing now had a different tune, making the students below the stage laugh. Here, there was nothing to be unhappy about. Sitting here, Yi Qian did not think about what happened just now. Yi Qian, who had beaten up the 7 delinquents, returned to the group of students. She was once again an excellent student in the eyes of the students. She was easy to get along with, had a good temper, and was a strong and beautiful girl. Come. Drink juice. Other than juice, there is also mineral water. If you want to drink, there is nothing. Yi Qian sat down. The senior class students sitting with her immediately poured her a glass of juice. They were much more familiar with each other and there was less of a sense of distance between them. After a night of fun, Yi Jian's polite attitude won their favor. Compared to Yao Jing, who made her own decisions, Yi Jian's peaceful and polite attitude won them over. Yi Qian smiled and clinked glasses with them. They sat together on the high bar and felt the atmosphere of the students. She had not experienced it in her previous life, but in this life, she felt a sense of novelty everywhere. The senior class was a very tense semester. It was rare to come out and relax. Even the relatively quiet girls in the class were sitting in the bar. They did not have to worry about the class teacher being angry. Before coming, Director Yang had informed the class teacher and promised that he would take care of every student. This could be seen from the dozen or so hotel staff standing around the bar. Some boys and girls were playing a game of finger guessing, each louder than the other. It could be seen that everyone was playing happily. When she saw Wang Jin sitting in the corner and arm wrestling with a few boys, Yi Jian, who felt sorry for him, walked over with a glass of juice. She didn't know if his arm hurt. She had to be more careful with her classmates next time so that she wouldn't accidentally hurt them again. My arm is fine. Why are you still thinking about it? Ha, it's fine, it's fine. It's fine. Seeing that she was still feeling guilty, Wang Jin swung his right arm high and laughed out loud. I won the arm wrestle just now. It's okay now. Where is Yang Heng? Why didn't he come with you? Did he go look for Yao Jing? Wang Jin had long forgotten about the pain in his arm. Seeing that Yang Heng was not accompanying Yi Jian, he immediately changed the topic. He blinked ambiguously and said with a smile, Junior sister Yi Jian, you have to work hard. Yao Jing is a formidable opponent. Yi Qian smiled. If it was because of Yang Heng, he wouldn't be a strong opponent. If it wasn't because of Yang Heng, she could be a strong opponent. Wang Jin was confused. After a moment of silence, he sighed, a future junior from a top university. Although there is only a one-word difference between a genius and a fool, there is a gap between the two. I don't understand what you are saying, I don't understand at all. Chapter 858. You can ask Yang Heng. He knows. Yi Qian yawned and tears welled up in his eyes. I'm sleepy. I have to go back to my room and sleep. I have to wake up early tomorrow. His meaning was simple. If Yi Qian really wanted to snatch Yang Heng from Yao Jing would have no chance of winning with such a strong opponent. If it weren't for Yang Heng, Yao Jing would be a strong opponent in Yi Qian's life. A strong opponent that could not be defeated so easily. Wang Jin pointed at the clock hanging on the bar counter and joked, "One look and I can tell that you are a good student. You never stay up late. It's not even midnight yet. I'm also staying up late, but I have something to do tomorrow. Have fun. Goodbye. I'll go find Captain Xia early tomorrow. Since I didn't reject his love letter, I should take the initiative occasionally. I don't know how long he can stay in Nan province. I feel bad making him run around all the time. If Commander-in-Chief Xia finds out." Fine. She was not afraid of Xia Jinyuan saying that she was heartless. She was afraid that Commander-in-Chief Xia would say that she tormented his son. Behind him, a boy put his arm around Wang Jin's shoulder and laughed. "If you are not a good student, how can you get such good grades? Why did Yi Qian ask if your arm is okay? What's wrong? Did something happen?" Wang Jin shook his right arm and laughed. "I sprained it. It's fine. It's fine. Let's go and sing a song." There was a lot of noise and laughter behind her. Yi Jian, who was smiling slightly, closed the door of the private room that had a good soundproof effect and left with light footsteps. It was already late into the night, and there were fewer cars outside the hotel at 11 o'clock. Yao Jing was screaming like a madwoman in the car, kicking and punching. The little princess crown on her head had already fallen somewhere. Her hair was disheveled, and she was venting her grievances and anger like a madwoman. Let her cry for a while. Don't disturb her. Deputy Director Yao, who was driving, drove steadily and motioned for his wife to sit still and not disturb his daughter's venting. A black car sped past on the opposite side of the road. The middle-aged man sitting in the car kept urging the driver, "Damn it, hurry up, hurry up. Run the red light. Charge through. Old Luo, if anything happens to our son, I'm not done with you. I'm not done with you." There was also a plump middle-aged woman with tears and snot running down her face. There was even a pile of tissues scattered in the car. Boss Luo, whose face was full of fat, glared fiercely at his wife and said angrily, "Spoiled, you only know how to spoil. Look at you now." He had spoiled a person who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. Who is Master Ho-san? If your brother is afraid of him, then I'm even more afraid of him. After provoking Master Ho-san, not only do you have to hope that nothing will happen to your son, you also have to fucking hope that nothing will happen to me. Boss Luo's wife choked. She collapsed in the car and wiped her tears. She didn't even dare to cry too loudly. Who didn't know Master Ho-san? His eldest brother used to work with Master Ho-san. Later, he made a mistake and was kicked out. Until now, he had been hiding in his hometown and didn't dare to come out. Master Ho-san had warned him to stay in his hometown so that he could live. What should we do? What should we do? Hubby, my brother said that if it's third Master Ho, our son will most likely die. What should we do? How can Grandma accept this? Cry, 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 cry my ass. Boss Luo, who was cursing, took out a big cigar. He wore a square ruby gold ring and lit the cigar. He took a deep puff and said in a muffled voice, "If there's no way out, you have to admit it. You have to fucking admit it." As long as they didn't fight in school, the teachers wouldn't care so much. At worst, he would pay more money to the school to keep his son's school status. Chapter 859. Even if he got into a fight or got into trouble, as long as no one was killed and he could settle it with money, it was not a big deal. But this good-for-nothing bastard dared to mess with Master Ho-san. No matter how rich he was not as rich as Master Ho-san. No matter how powerful he was not as powerful as Master Hausen's background in the underworld. When something happened, there was only one word for it: admit it. One car was heading home, while the other was heading towards the Caesar Hotel. Yao Jing was screaming crazily in the car, while the other car had already stopped. Boss Luo and his wife, together with the driver, used a flashlight to find Luo Ran, who had fainted in the withered grass. Son, wake up, don't scare your mother. Son, wake up, don't scare your mother, don't scare your mother. Holding Luo Ran, whose face and lips were pale, Luo Ran's mother cried until she almost fainted. The driver carefully touched Luo Ran's nose and whispered to his boss, whose fat was trembling, "Boss, he's still breathing. I think he just fainted. Let's put him in the car first. He's still breathing." Boss Luo was from Guangdong province. He had lost his fertility after a car accident in his early years. Otherwise, his family would not have raised Luo Ran as their ancestor. He was the only child in the family, and there was no way for him to grow a second one. How could he not be a treasure? The driver nodded repeatedly. "He's still breathing, he's still breathing. I checked, and there's no blood, except here." The driver, who was in his early 40s, pointed at Luo Ran's neck. "Someone strangled him here, but there's no other injury." The driver's surname was also Luo, and he was from the same village as Boss Luo. With his reminder, Boss Luo also gently stretched out 2 fingers in front of his son's nose. "He's really breathing. It's all right." Master Ho-san was merciful. "Stop crying, what are you crying for? Take him to the car. Call your cousin, who's a medical student, over for a checkup." His son was still breathing, and the Luo family was still alive. Boss Luo was so happy that he pushed his wife away and bent down to pick Luo Ran up. He tried twice but was blocked by his beer belly, so he had to tell his driver, "Hurry up, take my son to the car, get in the car first." As long as his son was still breathing, it was fine. If he really ran out of chi, he could only accept it. At this moment, Boss Luo didn't want to stay here for even a minute. He just wanted to leave as soon as possible. The black BMW with a local license plate sped away. In less than 2 minutes, Ho Zi, who was wearing a loose bathrobe that revealed a large portion of his strong and muscular chest, received a call from his subordinate. He didn't have much interest in it, so he replied with a soft and hung up the phone. He turned around and poured the red wine into a large crystal wine set. While shaking it gently, he walked to the sofa and sat down. "It's settled. I've just brought him home. Tell your little girlfriend not to worry." The red wine in the wine set was slowly poured into a tall crystal glass. Xia Jinyuan, who was also wearing a loose white hotel robe, picked up the crystal glass filled with red wine and gave a slight toast to Ho Zi. "Thank you, Brother Zi. Don't mention it. Even if I didn't show up today, your little girlfriend would have taken care of it." Ho Zi was no longer drunk. He sat on the dark-colored sofa with his slender legs crossed and sighed with a smile. "My men said that those little hooligans were beaten up badly. There were 7 of them in total. 4 of them had brass darts pierced into their left hands and knives pierced into their right hands. Their left and right hands were dislocated and twisted like noodles." Chapter 860. From the moment I saw her to the moment I brought my men over, she managed to get rid of 7 men in less than 15 minutes. She is indeed capable. With such a girlfriend, no matter where he was, he could rest assured. Xia Jinyuan's eyes were sharp. Xia Jinyuan, who had been gently swirling the wine glass in his hand, enjoyed the night view. His thin lips curved into an unusually soft smile. She's not my girlfriend. She's a high school student. She needs to wait. She is quite capable. Her goal is the same as mine. In fact, I'm her target. Ho Zi could hear a hint of bragging in his calm tone. She had to admit that this was something that could be bragged about. Any man would be jealous. The girl he liked had set him as her target. How could he not be envious? Ho Zi, who had just been broken up with, suddenly lost interest in talking to Xia Jinyuan about Yi Qian. She didn't want to hear a man who was so proud of his success to show off in front of her, who was about to fall out of love. She calmly changed the topic. The scenery is good, right? Do you feel like the mountains are small? The Caesar Hotel had 23 floors. Naturally, it was impossible for every floor to be a hotel. The hotel was divided into two main entrances. From the first floor to the 14th floor, there were hotels. From the 14th to the 20th floor, there were offices. On the 23rd floor, there were 2 bedrooms and 1 living room. For example, Xia Yiwei and Xia Jinyuan. The sofa faced the large floor-to-ceiling windows. Even if one were to sit on the sofa, they could have a bird's-eye view of the southern province. Xia Jinyuan clinked glasses with Ho Zi. After taking a sip, he slowly said, "It's lonely at the top." He wanted to sleep, so he forced himself to wake up. "Ha, do you want to hear nice words?" "Not at all. I asked you to accompany me to relax, not to make things difficult for me." Ho Zi finished the red wine in her glass in a few mouthfuls and immediately poured herself another glass. "I've already treated you to such a good French red wine. Can't you give me some face?" Xia Jinyuan stretched his long legs and lazily replied, "No, an old man like you doesn't need a young person like me to give you face. Face is given to oneself, not by others." 37 years old. Am I old? You're 37 years old, not old. My sister is 34 years old, don't you think she's old? Xia Jinyuan's voice was a little cold. "Brother Z, don't expect me to say something nice to you. My sister wants to marry you, but you don't want to marry her. There's only one result, an amicable parting. It's a relief for her and a relief for you." Ho Zi clenched her teeth so hard that her cheeks tightened. Her red phoenix eyes were filled with murderous intent. She said in a low voice, "Tell me, do you think we can get married?" "Who am I? Who was she? Who is your family, Xia? Could it be done? Can this marriage go through?" She said she wants to get married. Do I dare to agree? Does your family Xia dare to marry her to me? One was the boss of the underworld. His hands were stained with blood and he had countless enemies. He didn't dare to marry her because he didn't dare to take the risk. His phoenix eyes were bloodshot as he stared at Xia Jinyuan. He was like a proud phoenix with bloodshot eyes. His wings were gorgeous, but no one could get close to him. "Sixth brother, you're a man. Think about it if you were in my position. Would you dare?" "Dare? Why wouldn't I dare? The person I love and the person who loves me is by my side. Why wouldn't I dare? I would even dare to die. Not to mention enemies and enemies." Chapter 861. The scenery on the 23rd floor is indeed not bad. I should be able to watch the sunrise, but it's not good to be lonely at such a high place. I need someone to accompany me. Xia Jinyuan, who was thinking in his heart, raised his eyebrows slightly. He smiled confidently and said, "I dare, Brother Z." I won't let the person I love live without anyone to depend on. I will try my best to keep her safe and let her feel at ease when she is in a relationship. The world is big and there are many places with beautiful scenery. It's far away from the hustle and bustle of the world. Brother Z, it's actually not difficult to hold the hand of the person you love and take a stroll on a sparsely populated rural road. What's difficult is that you can't give up the status, power, and wealth you have today. So, you don't dare to give it up for Xia Wei. Ho Zi fell silent. Xia Jinyuan may be young, but his words were sharp and experienced. It was as if he had dug out Ho Zi's heart and revealed all his misgivings. That's right. It was indeed difficult for him to give up the status, wealth, and power he had today. He started as a poor boy and spent a total of 20 years building this beautiful country with his bare hands. How could he give up 20 years of hard work? If he left, what would happen to his brothers? How could they continue to play this game of chess? Once he left, what would he use to protect himself and his woman if his enemies came looking for him? He had been gambling for the past 20 years. Now that he had settled down, he didn't dare to gamble anymore. He was afraid that he would lose, so he didn't dare to gamble. Brother Z, you have too many misgivings in your heart. They far exceed your expectations of giving Xia Yiwei happiness. I admit that you love my sister, Xia Yiwei, but I want to tell you that there are not so many misgivings in love. Love is a promise. If you can't give her that promise, you can only choose to let go. After so many years, after 17 years of ups and downs, in the end, because of different identities, different statuses, and different misgivings, the people he once trusted became strangers. In the end, they no longer traveled together and their lives no longer intersected. This was a pity, but it also reminded him that he must not let the little fox drift further and further away from him. They must hold each other's hands tightly and walk side by side on the road of the military. They had the same goal, the same duty, the same military uniform, the same military cap, the same steel gun for the country. They would never leave each other in the flames of war. Only then could they continue to walk together and love each other. Ho Zi's red eyes seemed to sparkle with tears, but they quickly disappeared. He asked Xia Jinyuan, "Do you mean that my breakup with your sister is inevitable and there's no turning back? I'm not a part of your relationship. I have no way of knowing what's going on in your hearts, nor do I know how important this relationship is to you. Therefore, I can't give you an answer. I have no way of knowing what the outcome of your relationship is." Xia Jinyuan had finished the red wine in his glass. He gently placed the glass on the coffee table and rubbed his tired eyes. He stood up and said, "I still have to chase after my future girlfriend tomorrow. Good night, Brother Z." Only the two of them understood their relationship. No matter how clear others saw it, they could not tell what the outcome of their relationship would be. There were only two outcomes: break up or stay together. There were also only two choices: break up or stay together. It all depended on which outcome they chose. Ho Zi did not ask him to stay any longer. With a thoughtful expression, he softly said, "Goodbye." Then he sipped his red wine and quietly thought about it. He needed to think about it carefully. Chapter 862. His lover of 17 years, the only woman he loved in his life, was it possible for him to watch her marry another man? Xia Jinyuan walked to the door and unlocked it. He turned around and saw a lonely figure sitting on the sofa. His elegant and handsome face was solemn, and there was a dark look in his eyes. This was all he could do to help. If Ho Zi couldn't bear to give up his current position, Xia Yiwei wouldn't have a problem marrying his first love. After all, the two of them broke up because of a misunderstanding. One of them was still single, waiting for Iran, while the other was at an age where she had to get married because her relationship wasn't going well. If you fell in love, you shouldn't worry too much. If you really had so many worries, why did you get together in the first place? If you hesitated, you would end up as a loser. If you kept thinking about waiting until little Fox went to college, you'd end up letting those little boys make the first move. The biggest mistake you can't make for someone you love is to be self-righteous. If you don't regret making a move, and if you fall in love, you don't regret it. What's so difficult about dealing with the things around you that might interfere with your relationship? What's really difficult is your own heart. You can't make up your mind, you can't decide what to do, and you have too many worries. He wouldn't have so many worries about his own feelings. No matter how difficult the situation was, it wouldn't stop him from making a move. After pausing at the door for a while, Xia Jinyuan suddenly said, "Brother Z, my return this time might bring you a certain amount of danger. But the only person I can think of is you. I, Ho Z, have been walking on the edge of a knife for so many years. You came to me because you think highly of me and you trust me. If there's any danger, as long as I can handle it, it won't be a problem." Ho Z, who was still living a life of turbulence, seemed to have known all along. He said calmly with a hint of arrogance, "Your identity can bring me danger, and it's indeed dangerous enough. I've done so many things, but I've never done anything bad to protect a soldier. There's no harm in giving it a try." In the face of danger, only Ho Z, who was in the underworld, would dare to say that there was no need to guard against it. Xia Jinyuan smirked and said, "Brother Z, if you have the chance to make a serious choice, how do you plan to live with Xia Yiwei? Continue to live your own life and let Xia Yiwei get married? Make a serious choice. Single choice." Ho Zi's gaze froze. She turned her head from the sofa and looked at the young man standing at the door like a pine tree. "Are you willing to see your little girlfriend marry someone else?" It seemed that the matter between him and Xia Yiwei had not reached a dead end yet. Xia Jinyuan nodded and smiled faintly. "I understand. Rest early." If Ho Zi could seize the opportunity, he and Xia Yiwei would have a bright future. If he missed it, Ho Zi would still be the current Ho Zi, while Xia Yiwei would become someone else's wife, Xia Yiwei. "What opportunity is it that you can't tell me now?" Ho Zi got up from the sofa and stared fixedly at Xia Jinyuan. "The opportunity one want is an opportunity that requires me to reshuffle everything in my hands. Can you afford to give it to me?" Xia Jinyuan raised his eyebrows and said calmly, "Working with the territory under your feet, I wonder if this opportunity is big enough. Moreover, Brother Z is the only person I can think of who can help me now." Chapter 863. An opportunity to cooperate with the territory under his feet. Ho Zi swayed the red wine in his glass and stared sharply at Xia Jinyuan for a long time. After confirming something, he downed the red wine in his glass and smiled. "I believe in you, old six. I believe in you too, Brother Z." Xia Jinyuan closed the door and left the room of the 37-year-old man who finally understood that Xia Yiwei was so important that she had become his life. A faint smile flashed across his cold eyes. Xia Yiwei was really a difficult woman to deal with. A simple breakup was enough to force a mafia boss to this extent. You don't want the world, but you want the beauty. Xia Yiwei, you've succeeded. Standing by the corridor on the 23rd floor, Xia Jinyuan looked through the glass and his deep eyes flickered slightly. Someone's wish came true, but he didn't know if he would be able to achieve it. The night was not bad. There were no stars or moon, and there was a little wind. It was a night very suitable for Yi Yu. If his wish came true tonight, he would be able to fight side by side with Little Fox and also have a Yi Yu, a night rendezvous. Watch the sunrise. Sit on the sofa in the room on the 23rd floor and watch the sunrise together. He felt that it was not bad. Then, he would wait for the military to call. Although he said that he had returned to the southern province, it was dangerous to return to the southern province. It was dangerous to lure all the snakes to the southern province. He was in the country and the mission was not interrupted. Now, he just had to wait for the military to approve his request. The phone in his bathrobe vibrated. Xia Jinyuan's eyes darkened, but he didn't seem to notice it. There was a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. The man, who was wearing a bathrobe that couldn't hide his elegance, walked back to the room gracefully. This phone was specially modified. There was no one else other than the military and his comrades who would send a message at this time of night. He originally wanted to find Little Fox and drag her to watch the sunrise together, but it seemed that it would be a little later. I'm Q King. Q King, someone from abroad has sneaked into the country to carry out the second plan of the storm mission. The mission of luring the snakes out of their holes has begun. Xia Jinyuan opened the curtains in the room and sat on the same sofa as Ho Zi's room. He looked down at the city from above. Roger that. We've already contacted Ho Zi, the leader of the underworld in southern province. Our identities have been covered. We're ready for action. The phone was silent for a few seconds, but it felt like the entire night was about to pass. Your decision is very dangerous. Whether it's letting Ho Zi get involved or asking Yi Qian for help, it's all very risky. The military department opposes it out of caution, but Commander-in-Chief Xia supports it. Q King, your current identity is too special. We can trust Yi Qian, but Ho Zi, once she finds out and reveals your whereabouts, you should know what kind of trouble you'll be in. The voice on the other side of the phone was low and cold. It was the leader of all the members of the Snowfield Brigade, a major general in the army. Xia Jinyuan met him in Yi Qian in Pakistan. Xia Jinyuan said calmly, I'm sure Ho Zi's file is already on the military department's conference table. Although he's a member of the underworld, he's very principled. There have been people from abroad who have contacted him many times and tried to instigate him by offering him many favorable conditions. All the people sent were secretly dealt with by Ho Zi, and the foreign organizations didn't dare to retaliate. Just based on this, I believe Ho Zi won't reveal my identity. Chapter 864. Why did he come to Southern Province to look for Ho Zi? It was not only because Ho Zi was capable, but also because he trusted her character. Ho Zi was the only person in the country who dared to kill someone sent by an overseas organization. If it weren't for this, the military wouldn't have allowed you to contact Ho Zi, the Major General said solemnly. Although it's great that I'm willing to die in exchange for your life, and your decision is admirable, I don't want to see anything happen to any of you. The military has agreed to all your requests. Yi Qian is approved to join the operation as your second shield. She will be our hidden sword in Southern Province. If a snake comes out of its hole, the hidden sword will be unsheathed and kill without mercy. Xia Jinyuan's eyes flickered and the corners of his mouth curved slightly in the dark room. Since he had come to Southern Province, how could he not have Little Fox to fight alongside him? If Little Fox wanted actual combat experience, he would give it to her. As long as there was a chance, he would definitely give her actual combat experience. This was because he had promised that he would hold Yi Qian's hand tightly and grow with her. A gentleman's promise could not be bought with money. He had always kept his promise in his heart. At this moment, his wish came true. We still need to see her reaction. We won't inform her directly for now, the Major General said. The military hopes that she can be your support in Southern Province. We'll test her first before informing her. Yi Qian was a student. Even if her file appeared in the military and was recorded in the system, she was still a student. The military did not know her movements at all times. When the Major General said, "See her reaction," it was actually a test. He wanted to see if Yi Qian was qualified to be a hidden sword who could lure the snake out of its hole and kill without mercy. Major Xia, who wanted to hold Yi Qian's hand to watch the sunrise, nodded and said calmly, "Okay, follow the order strictly. G3 will contact you later. Be careful." After the Major General said what he needed to say, he hung up the phone. A text message soon appeared on Xia Jinyuan's phone. It was a text from G3. It was also the text that Xia Jinyuan had been waiting for. G3 sent a message saying that he was rushing to Southern Province. K7, who had not been able to contact him, sent a message at 11:05 p.m. saying that he had entered the country safely. During this mission, K7 was injured and lost contact with his teammates. No one knew where he was. There were still 14 hours before the 120-hour deadline. G3 suddenly received a message from K7 saying that he had entered the country safely. It was good news to receive K7's message, but if he had entered the country, why didn't he give G3 his coordinates? Xia Jinyuan, who was a little worried after receiving the message, sat there quietly until 3:00 in the morning. It was already 3 o'clock. Xia Jinyuan looked out of the window and smiled. It seemed like he could bring little Fox here to watch the sunrise together. At this time, Yi Qian had already fallen asleep. She had no idea that she would soon be fighting alongside Xia Jinyuan as a student. She was sleeping soundly and maintained her sleeping position. Even when she was sleeping, Yi Qian was very disciplined. When she opened her eyes again, there was a cold glint in her eyes. She pulled out a pillow with her right hand and threw it at the shadow standing beside her bed. She then rolled to the side of the bed and half-squatted to hide. Someone had snuck into her room and she did not notice immediately. She had not trained for half a month and her vigilance had dropped so low. The moment she threw the pillow, she suddenly chuckled. "It's me." Chapter 865. It's me, Xia Jinyuan. It's him, the man she saw tonight, the man she had agreed to meet tomorrow. The man who came to see her immediately after completing a mission. Yi Qian, who had already picked up silver wire, heaved a sigh of relief. He sat down on the carpet and said impatiently, "Major Xia, why aren't you sleeping in the middle of the night? Are you on a mission?" "Yes, I'm on a very important mission." Xia Jinyuan, who had sneaked into the room in the middle of the night, put the pillow back on the bed. He smiled calmly and said, "I'm carrying out orders. In order to ensure Xia Jinyuan's physical and mental health, I have to arrest a little fox to prevent him from going crazy." Yi Qian was speechless. "You win, Major Xia. Also, it's really dangerous to have a special forces soldier as a boyfriend. You have to be wary of him sneaking into your room in the middle of the night to ambush you." Yi Qian, who was rubbing his temples, climbed back onto the bed. He looked at the man who had suddenly appeared in the room and was already standing by the bed. Yi Qian was both angry and amused. He said, "I was still in shock when you went crazy. Captain Xia, don't you feel the slightest bit embarrassed about doing such sneaky things when you're on the battlefield?" "No, I'm very glad that I'm a special forces soldier who can leap onto roofs and vault over walls. And I'm proud of it." Major Xia had always been thick-skinned, especially in front of Yi Qian. It was at least 10 centimeters thick and invulnerable. Other people's boyfriends can only be anxious when they think about their girlfriends in the middle of the night. But for me, I think about them whenever I think about them. It's so convenient. So, I'm quite proud of it. So, having a special forces soldier as a boyfriend, I have to set up many traps in my room before I go to bed in order to prevent him from harboring ill intentions. Yi Qian was so angry that he laughed. He was actually quite proud of something like this. This person, the more he interacted with him, the more he felt that he wasn't an inflexible man. He was just an idiot. She opened the bedside cabinet, turned on the light, and looked at the time. 3:30 a.m. At 3:30 in the morning, Xia Jinyuan appeared in her room. Previously, when he sent her to the hotel, she saw that his face was full of fatigue. Now, when it was time to sleep, he appeared in the guest room of the Venus Hotel. What were the hotel staff and security personnel doing? It was not their fault. How could they have discovered the infiltration of a top special forces soldier? 3:30. You went back to the hotel to take a nap. Are you feeling energetic now? Yi Qian sat on the bed and stared at the man who was smiling elegantly. Then, his eyes widened slightly. You came in a hotel bathrobe. From Caesar Hotel to Venus Hotel. Xia Jinyuan, you. Even if you want to do something naughty in the middle of the night, why don't you change your clothes? Clothes, he had thought of changing, but he really didn't have any clothes to change into. The set of clothes that he had brought back tonight had already been burned to ashes. His tall body leaned over and then he lay down on the bed. Then, he turned to face Yi Qian and supported his chin with one hand. His lazy posture had a casual air of nobility. Even his mischievous smile had an indescribable elegance to it. Little Fox was also someone who could fall asleep anywhere. When he broke into the room and heard her breathing, he knew that she was sleeping soundly. It was the first time he had done something like this. It was actually more stimulating than carrying out a mission. When he opened the door and found that there was no movement in the room, he was quite excited. Picking locks and picking doors was a small part of their training. Even if there was an anti-theft bolt inside a hotel, it was just a decoration to them. Chapter 866. After entering the room, he gently closed the door behind him. He walked into the room, where even the air was filled with her faint fragrance. He felt as if his organs had been cleansed, and all his fatigue and dust had disappeared. At this moment, Xia Jinyuan was completely relaxed. He looked at Yi Qian with a smile in his eyes. When he raised his eyes slightly, his gaze inadvertently fell on her chest for a few seconds. Yi Qian was still a little angry about his sneaking into her room in the middle of the night. She didn't notice that when Xia Jinyuan's gaze slid across her bare chest, there was a faint light in his deep black eyes. Even through her clothes, Xia Jinyuan was still able to reap the benefits in the middle of the night. The scenery was beautiful. If he stared at her for too long, she was afraid that she would directly raise her foot and kick him in the face. Before Yi Qian noticed, Xia Jinyuan calmly retracted his gaze, although he was reluctant to part with her. He smiled and replied, I fled back to China like a refugee. Every time I went to a place, I had to change into a new set of clothes. Then, I burned the clothes I changed into and completely erased the traces to avoid being discovered. There were a total of 4 sets of clothes. The set of clothes you saw tonight was my last set of clothes. Also, it was picked up from the discarded clothes of a clothing factory. When I returned to the hotel, I immediately cleaned it up. The only thing I could wear was this hotel bathrobe. He spoke in a relaxed and cheerful tone as if he was joking. Yi Qian, who knew why even the clothes had to be burned, shuddered when she heard this. What kind of operation was so strict that even the clothes they wore on the way back had to be burned? Then, when they fought, they definitely weren't wearing our country's combat uniform. While she was still thinking, Xia Jinyuan's slow voice didn't stop. The military uniform I wore that day is still on the ceiling of the utility room on the first floor of the airport. Tomorrow, I'll need you to help me retrieve it. It's not convenient for me to come out in the next few days. Be careful when you retrieve it, and pay attention to your surroundings when you come back. Xia Jinyuan, who had gotten what he wanted, began to talk about the mission without any pressure. He did some small things to let Yi Qian know how dangerous the mission was. You. Okay, I know. I'll get up now. I can take the car there. Yi Qian wanted to ask, "Are you safe now?" but he quickly changed his words. Since he was in front of her now, he should be safe. He stood up and said, "There will be a bus from the Caesar Hotel to the airport at 5:00. I can take a ride there. Just wait for me to come back." As she stood there, Xia Jinyuan could clearly appreciate Yi Qian's figure. Her proportions could be said to be perfect. She was tall and well-proportioned, and every part of her body was exquisite as if it had been carved out of jade. It seemed that the benefits of sneaking into a room in the middle of the night were not just a little, but a lot more. If he was outside in the future, should he consider sneaking in a few more times? As he thought about it, Xia Jinyuan furrowed his brows and scolded himself in his heart, "Dirty." Ever since he met the little fox, his moral bottom line had been lowered again and again. It's still early. You can get up after 6:00. You can get the clothes back in the afternoon. There's no rush. Xia Jinyuan lifted the blanket that she was sitting on and smiled like a gentleman. It's a little cold. You're still wearing a short-sleeved shirt and shorts. You'd better lie under the blanket to avoid catching a cold. I'll wake you up when it's time. Chapter 867. After his reminder, Yi Qian, who didn't feel cold at first, looked down at herself. After she saw it, her white jade-like face instantly turned red. She jumped onto the bed with the same agility as she did during training and hugged herself tightly under the white blanket. "Xia Jinyuan," she shouted angrily. The major raised his eyebrows with a confused look on his face. What's wrong? What's wrong? Why is he still pretending to be innocent and unaware? Yi Qian threw another pillow at his face. Do you dare say you didn't notice? You didn't see? No. No. Took a few more glances. Yi Qian, who was skilled in martial arts but had never been in a relationship in her 2 lifetimes, was too innocent to say the rest. Once Major Xia got angry, Yi Qian, who hadn't let loose in front of him, couldn't defend herself. Xia Jinyuan caught the harmless pillow and shook his head helplessly. I noticed, I saw, I even took a few more glances. I really wanted to remind you at the time, but I was afraid you would be embarrassed, so I didn't say anything. Little Fox found out when he said, "Be careful of catching a cold." Yi Qian didn't want to talk to him anymore. Now she understood why Xia Yiwei said Xia Jinyuan was the most troublesome person in the family. She already felt a headache coming on. This man always made her mad, but she couldn't find a reason to be mad at him. In the end, she just had to hold it in. She was holding it in until she hid under the blanket and didn't want to come out. When it came to these things, Yi Qian was as pure as a piece of paper. It was obvious that she was confused when it came to relationships and didn't know how to get along well with a man. Fortunately, Major Xia was also a blank piece of paper. He had a high EQ, but he had never been in a relationship before. After he met her, he immediately thought of being a gentleman and not scaring the underage little fox away. He softly coaxed her. I really didn't take a few more glances. I'm still a boyfriend, so how would I dare to take a few more glances? I was looking into your eyes and thinking about something else. Don't be cooped up in the blanket. Be careful not to suffocate yourself. If you really don't want to sleep, we can chat. Or you can pack up and we'll go back to the Caesar Hotel. I booked a room on the 23rd floor. We can sit on the sofa and watch the sunrise together. When he coaxed Yi Qian, his expression, voice, and eyes could all be seen and heard. Yi Qian could feel his gentleness and warmth close to her heart. Yi Qian gradually walked out of the awkwardness. She poked her head out of the quilt and looked at Xia Jinyuan, who was leaning against the bed and talking to her with his eyes closed. She frowned and said, "How long has it been since you had a good sleep?" There were dark circles under his eyes, which were the result of severe lack of sleep. 4 days and 4 nights. I haven't slept for that long. Xia Jinyuan's fierce expression disappeared when he heard her question. He took a deep breath of her sweet scent and said, "When I came back last night, Ho Zi chatted with me. Time passed by before I knew it." Yi Qian saw his frown and said softly, "Lie down and sleep for a while." Yi Qian understood how difficult and dangerous their missions were. She couldn't bear to see him like this. It was because she understood that she was especially gentle with this muddle-headed major. Chapter 868. No, I'm not sleepy yet. Although Xia Jinyuan's eyes were closed, his brain did not rest. Talk to me. Maybe I can fall asleep while listening to your voice. Yi Qian pursed his lips. Now that we're back in the country, why do you still look so worried? Did you encounter any difficulties? There was an accident during Operation Decapitation. Xia Jinyuan calmly explained the mission they were carrying out this time. He spoke without any pressure because he had received approval from the military, but Yi Qian, who did not know the situation, was shocked. Li Yan coldly reprimanded, "Xia Jinyuan, open your eyes." How could he reveal the mission so easily? Didn't he know who he was? The top 10 confidentiality rules of the military. Look at what you're saying now. First, do not reveal secrets that should not be revealed. Second, do not ask about secrets that should not be asked. Third, do not look at secrets that should not be seen. Fourth, do not bring secrets that should not be brought up. Fifth, do not mention secrets in private letters. Sixth, do not record secrets in unclassified books. Seventh, do not use ordinary mail to transmit secrets. Eighth, do not read or discuss secrets in unclassified places. Ninth, do not privately copy, preserve, or destroy secrets. 10th, do not bring secret carriers to travel or visit relatives and friends. You know all these. Seeing how anxious she was, Xia Jinyuan could not help but laugh. He raised his eyes and said, "Operation Decapitation is just these 2 words. You have no way of knowing what kind of operation it is. This operation was called Operation Decapitation. The operation team did not encounter any problems. An electrical engineer in the embassy said that the Chinese side was sending people to repair the aging circuit, and his words alerted the enemy. The security level of the deployment made them squat in a sewer for 48 hours. When they came out, they could not feel their hands and feet. This was also the first time in several years that a comrade in the Snowfield Brigade had gone missing after an operation and had not returned to their positions. Yes, Operation Decapitation was just these 2 words, but what was decapitation? It was to destroy the enemy's leader and their organization. His mission this time was to go abroad and behead someone with a very big background. Yi Qian only thought about it, but his heart trembled. He wanted to warn him, but when he saw that he didn't even have the strength to open his eyes, he sighed in his heart. Didn't you say you were tired and needed to go back to sleep after sending me home last night? You didn't sleep at all last night. Go to sleep and stop talking. I don't want to listen to it anymore. Yi Qian forcefully pulled on his arm, wanting him to lie down and sleep comfortably. He was a soldier and a comrade who had fought side by side with her. If she didn't understand his hardships, who else could? A comrade would always be able to understand the hardships of a comrade. Xia Jinyuan, whose arm was being held by her, closed his eyes. He didn't even want to open them. He didn't even want to move. He had a faint smile on his face, and his breathing was shallow. When he spoke, his voice was extremely soft as he coaxed her. Be good, I know you have to keep it a secret. I've never forgotten. You should sleep too. I'll take a nap too. Previously, when I went back to the hotel, I was caught by Brother Z and talked for more than 2 hours. When I went back to my room, I had other things to do. Before I came to your place, I actually didn't sleep at all. Thinking about K7 and reading the message sent by G3, he sat there in deep thought. When he came back to his senses, it was already 3 in the morning. Then, he came to look for her. Chapter 869. With the approval of the military, he could openly look for her when he was on a mission. He could once again hold her hand and fight side by side with her. He had to let her take a breather first and figure out how dangerous the decapitation operation was. Then, he could judge whether she could handle the danger. Listening to her clear voice and smelling her scent in the air, Xia Jinyuan gradually felt tired. He couldn't even open his eyes now. Xia Jinyuan didn't speak again. He just wanted to have a good sleep. Major Xia coaxed himself to sleep. Xia Jinyuan fell into a deep sleep with his back against the headboard, his head upright, and his hands crossed in front of his lower abdomen. Yi Qian couldn't let him sleep like this. She lifted the blanket and gently knelt on the bed. She hugged his shoulders with both hands and held her breath. Little by little, she laid him down on his side. Yang Heng had reserved a double room for Xia Jinyuan, who was 186 meters tall, on the 188 meters wide bed. The space instantly became much smaller. His feet were still outside, so he had no choice but to lie on his side. The bed was only so wide. The blanket gently covered him. Yi Qian, who was no longer sleepy, quietly looked at the young major who was sleeping. He couldn't sleep well, and his expression was still as sharp as a sword. Yi Qian sighed softly in the room. The decapitation operation was the most dangerous operation. No wonder he felt tired. Look, he was so tired that he was frowning even when he was sleeping. Sleep well. Since you're back in China, sleep well. Yi Qian reached out and stroked his eyebrows. She focused on him until she smoothed his eyebrows. Then, she gently got up from the bed. She had to rush to the airport to get his military uniform. When she left that day, the uniform was still wet. It had been left in the airport's utility room for more than half a month. She didn't know if it had gotten moldy. The sooner she got it back, the sooner she could wash it and iron it. When he woke up, he could wear it. Yi Jian got up and changed her clothes. When she was about to go out after brushing her teeth and washing her face, she saw Xia Jinyuan, who was frowning in his sleep, moving his body uncomfortably. From his expression, she could tell that he was in a deep sleep and had no intention of waking up. She guessed that he wanted to sleep in a more comfortable position. Looking at his frown, Yi Jian's eyes flashed with a trace of pity. She walked to the bedside and wanted to pick up the short-sleeved shirt and shorts she had just thrown on the bedside, folded them, and put them aside. Who knew that just as she was about to make a move, she saw his long arms wrap around her clothes and blanket, directly covering his face. She even heard an extremely soft, yet exceptionally deep, comfortable sound. At that moment, Yi Qian almost ran. He covered his face with her clothes and by the sound of it. All the way to the hotel lobby, Yi Qian's face was still hot. Her eyes were so hot that they were like pools of spring water, revealing a touch of seduction. "Hey, aren't you Yang Heng's classmate?" Someone asked softly from behind, followed by the thump-thump of high heels. "What's the matter? Are you not used to sleeping here?" The person who spoke was Yang Heng's aunt, the boss of Venus. One of the hotel staff who was working next to her saw this and said softly, "President Song, I'll drive over now. Please wait for a moment." President Song recognized Yi Qian at a glance because he had a deep impression of Yi Qian. A clean and beautiful girl would leave a deep impression wherever she went. Chapter 870. Is the room not good? If it's not good, Auntie will change it for you immediately. She walked directly to Yi Qian and smiled kindly. "You are all guests, we have to make sure you sleep comfortably in the hotel." She was a capable woman. Yi Qian quickly composed himself and politely said, No, I have to go to the airport. That's why I woke up early. I slept very well and didn't feel uncomfortable at all. She could fall asleep anywhere. It was just that the hotel's security personnel had sent a special forces soldier over. She was startled awake at 3:30 in the morning. "Going to Jiang." "That's great, I also need to go to the airport to pick someone up." "Take my car." Manager Song, with her exquisite makeup, laughed heartily. She must have just woken up, as her eyes were still bloodshot. "The staff helped me get the car. Let's go and wait outside." She turned to the front desk and said, "Xiao Fang, prepare 2 sets of breakfast for me. 1 set with coffee and the other with fresh milk." Yi Qian's indifferent face lit up with joy. He quickly thanked her. "Thank you, Manager Song. I won't stand on ceremony then." This way, she wouldn't have to wait until 5 o'clock to take a ride from Caesar Hotel. She could pick up her military uniform earlier. Child, you can just call me Auntie." "Why are you calling me Manager Song?" Manager Song, who still had a stern expression, couldn't help but laugh. This child was really polite. "Don't blame me for making the decision alone. Let's go, the car is here." Yang Heng's Auntie Song was a divorced woman. They divorced 8 years ago, and her daughter was awarded to her husband. Now, she was going to pick up her daughter from France, whom she hadn't seen for more than 2 years. The car drove over. Yi Qian's gaze fell on the 1997 red Ferrari. He saw that Auntie Song was yawning several times. Yi Qian, who originally wanted to say that she could drive to the airport, silently shut his mouth. "Auntie, did you not rest well last night?" Yi Qian sat in the front passenger seat and couldn't help but ask. When she was training with the motorists, the most common thing the instructor said was, "Don't drive when you're tired." Looking at Auntie Song, who looked rather tired and yawned non-stop, Yi Qian was still a little worried. It was not good to drive while tired. President Song smiled as he started the car and slowly drove into the entrance of the lobby. "You didn't sleep the whole night. Are you worried that I can't drive well?" "Don't worry, I still have the skills. I used to be able to drive steadily even if I didn't sleep for several nights in a row." Throughout the journey, Manager Song's driving skills were indeed not bad, but every time she yawned deeply, Yi Qian felt a chill run down his spine. When the motor vehicle soldiers were assigned to night training, if they were really tired, they would eat morning peppers to refresh themselves and apply cooling ointment to resist fatigue. They would use all kinds of hard methods to keep their minds clear all the way. However, Director Song and the others were different. It was impossible for them to use such a ruthless method to refresh themselves. If they were so tired all the way, there would definitely be problems driving. Yi Qian didn't care about the value of the car anymore. He simply smiled and said, "Auntie Song, let me drive. It will take an hour to get to the airport. I'll drive. Why don't you sit and rest for a while?" Just as Yi Qian finished speaking, a strong light suddenly shone from the opposite side. This was not the strong light of a small car, but the strong light of a large truck rushing towards them. President Song, who hadn't had a good rest, couldn't help but squint when the strong light shone on her. She didn't even realize what was happening in front of her. Chapter 871. Yi Qian, who had been paying attention, didn't even have time to say, "Be careful." He released his seatbelt in a second and leaned toward the driver's seat. His hands gripped the steering wheel and turned it quickly. As the bright light rushed toward them, Yi Qian said calmly, "Step on the accelerator. Quick." In that second, Director Song's brain still reacted. She stepped on the accelerator as low as possible, and the entire car was like an arrow released from a bow. Under Yi Qian's control, the car made a beautiful drift on the road. The rubber wheels rubbed against the ground, making a sharp squeaking sound. Amidst Song's screams, Yi Qian completed the second lateral drift in a row, causing the entire sports car to rush forward with a boom, thus avoiding the rampage of the truck. Fortunately, it was a Ferrari sports car. Its refueling speed and control were top-notch. That was why it could complete 2 drifts in such a situation. Bang, bang, bang. There were several loud noises. From the rearview mirror, they could clearly see that the truck on the opposite side of the road had crashed into the guardrail in the middle of the road. It continued to sweep forward, breaking several lampposts, and finally rushed into the green belt. After avoiding the danger, Yi Qian turned the steering wheel and said in a deep voice, "Auntie, let's park the car and get out to check the situation." No matter what she learned was useful. If she hadn't trained with the auto soldiers, this would have been the second time she had lost her life. Compared to Director Song, who was scared stiff, Yi Qian was unbelievably calm. She didn't even have a trace of fear on her face. Even her eyes were as calm as a mirror. Director Song, who was scared out of her wits, didn't even know how she lifted her foot to step on the brakes. She even forgot to pull the handbrake. It was Yi Qian who pulled it and turned off the engine. "Auntie Song, calm down first. I'll get out to check the situation." Yi Qian had encountered accidents like the one just now when he was training. His brain and his hands reacted together. His brain thought of a way to avoid the accident in the first place, and his hands reacted quickly with his brain. Thus, he could nimbly and calmly avoid the sudden accident. In the car, Manager Song was still in a daze. When Yi Qian spoke to her, she turned her neck stiffly and looked at Yi Qian in a daze. Although he said he was looking, his pupils were dilated. His gaze was not focused on Yi Qian, which meant that his brain could not keep up. He did not know what Yi Qian had said, nor did he know what he was doing. After getting out of the car, Yi Qian saw that the front of the truck that had rushed over from the opposite side of the road was twisted out of shape. Car parts were scattered all over the road, and the long truck compartment was overturned in the middle of the horses, blocking the road to the airport. Yi Qian's first reaction was to look across the road to see if any cars had been hit. A gust of wind blew past, bringing with it the smell of gasoline and paint. These were all very pungent smells. Yi Qian, who was sensitive to smells, wrinkled his nose uncomfortably. Something happened. Something's wrong. Quick, call the police, call the police. On the opposite side of the road, the 2 private cars that had picked up people from the airport stopped one after another. Those with cell phones quickly called the police, while others called the ambulance. Then, another car sped into the city without stopping on the opposite side of the road. The speeding car meant that the traffic on the opposite side of the road was smooth, and no cars were hit. On her side, the scene was very tragic. Car parts were scattered everywhere. 5 lamp posts were knocked down, and the lamp post at the edge was lying on top of the truck compartment. The cables buried in the ground were dragged out. Yi Qian looked at the cables carefully. He did not see any signs of wires being torn. Chapter 872. The cars heading to the airport saw this from afar and stopped on the side of the road. The large truck in the middle of the road blocked their path. Yi Qian had already run to the front of the deformed truck and realized that the front tire was missing. The pungent smell of gasoline wafted from the front of the truck. The engine of the truck had shut down after the collision, and the entire engine had stopped working. The truck was too high, so Yi Qian jumped on the road and shouted, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you tell me how many people are in the truck?" The smell of blood mixed with the smell of gasoline and gradually drifted into her ears. It started faintly and grew stronger. Yi Qian, who did not hear a reply, took a deep breath. She needed to climb onto the truck to see what was going on inside. When she saw that the fuel tank was intact, she did not hesitate to climb onto the side of the humongous truck. Using the dim street lights in front of her, she looked through the broken windows and saw that there were 3 people in the truck. The driver was the most seriously injured. The lower half of his body was stuck in the deformed front of the truck. Blood flowed from his head down his face to his neck. In addition to the bleeding from his head, the driver's lower body was more seriously injured. However, there was no way to save him in a short time. Yi Qian pulled on the door with a heavy gaze. In fact, the door was already deformed, but she did not give up and wanted to try. She pulled a few times, but the door did not move at all. Yi Qian could only give up trying to open the other door. "Yi Qian, get down." Manager Song, who had calmed down, came over with weak legs. When she saw Yi Qian standing beside the deformed truck, she was so scared that her heart almost jumped out of her throat. "Get down, get down. The gasoline is so heavy. Be careful of the explosion." Just now, it was this young lady who saved her life. She really saved her life. If she hadn't suddenly leaned over and agilely turned the steering wheel to make 2 drifts, the car she was driving would have been completely deformed by the head-on collision. If she had not met her tonight, her life would have been over. Completely over. Seeing her climb onto the big truck that had already been scrapped despite the danger, her knees went weak. She yelled at the top of her lungs, "Get off now. It's dangerous. Get down. Quick." She used too much force and choked on the wind. Manager Song, who had always paid attention to her image and was now coughing in a sorry state. "It's okay. The fuel tank is not damaged. The engine turned off automatically and there is no flame. There's no danger of an explosion for now." Yi Qian, who had jumped of the truck, frowned and said to Manager Song, "The driver's life may be in danger. There are 2 people in the front passenger seat." Yi Qian did not dare to rush to the rescue. She was afraid that if she acted rashly, it would worsen the injury of the injured. She had to observe carefully first. "Director Song, please call 120 and the fire department. Someone needs to come over for the repair of the power supply." People had already surrounded the truck. They all stood about 2 meters away from the truck. No one dared to come up. When they saw a young lady like Yi Qian jump out, they thought she had come out of the truck. Someone shouted, "Young lady, what's the situation with the truck?" Chapter 873. It's not good. There are 3 people in the car. The lower half of the driver's body is stuck, and the front of the car is deformed. The injured person sitting at the side of the front passenger seat should have lighter injuries. Yi Qian gave them a simple answer. She climbed to the front passenger seat and tried to open the door. The car was locked from the inside, so there was no way to open it. She took off her school uniform jacket and wrapped it around her right hand. She grabbed the broken glass and quickly pulled off one piece after another. She needed to reach into the car to unlock the door. Yi Qian pulled off the sharp glass piece by piece until she found the small lever to unlock the door. She pulled it, and with a click, the locked front passenger door opened. "Does anyone have a flashlight? Can you lend it to me?" When the door was pulled open, Yi Qian turned around and said to the pedestrians who were blocking the road, "I need a flashlight to check the injuries of the trapped people." The onlookers realized that the girl was not from the truck, but a passerby. Two drivers did not hesitate and immediately ran back to their cars to take out flashlights. Some hesitated and chose to stand aside to watch. Chief Song was on the phone with his brother-in-law, Chief Yang. He said anxiously, "Brother-in-law, there was a car accident at the intersection of Zhongjin Road near the airport. A truck came from the opposite side of the road, and the front of the car was deformed. Yi Qian, this brave girl, is rescuing people by herself. Get someone here." Chief Yang was the chief of the Transportation Bureau. The traffic accident happened to be the Traffic Police Department's responsibility. Hearing this, he was not sleepy anymore. He did not even bother to ask why Yi Qian was with his aunt at night. He got out of bed and said, "Have you called the police? What's the situation? Give the phone to Yi Qian." "I called the police, I called the police. I also told the fire department." "Wait a moment, I'll give the phone to Yi Qian." Chief Song walked around the back of the car with the phone and saw a few people shining flashlights into the car. Yi Qian was holding onto the car door with one hand and peeking his head into the car to observe. Her heart was still palpitating as she trotted over. Before she could pass the phone to Yi Qian, she was shocked by the tragic situation in the car. She stopped in her tracks. Under the flashlight, the car was covered in blood. The three people inside were lying on the ground like they were covered in blood. None of them had any reaction. Brother-in-law, it's very bad. Yi Qian is saving people." She didn't dare to hand the phone over. No matter how strong she was in business, she had never seen such a bloody scene. Chief Yang had already put on his clothes with the help of his wife. After hearing this, his expression became even more serious. "Remind Yi Qian that the car has an oil leak and caught fire. Tell the people participating in the rescue not to bring any fireworks. No smoking at the scene." Chief Yang instructed on the phone. At the scene, Yi Qian said, "The driver's right leg is stuck. We need to stop the bleeding. Who has a jack or a wrench in the car? Let's save the injured people on the outermost side first." Although Yi Qian had never participated in a rescue before, he had learned how to participate in a rescue when he was training with the soldiers. With a calm gaze, she calmly ordered the adults around her. She followed the rule of observing first before rescuing. After giving the instructions, she checked the condition of the injured people on the outermost side. Female, about 40 years old, slightly plump. Unconscious, breathing, pulse strong, head hit, no signs of bleeding. There was no major bleeding on the upper and lower body, but the person fell forward. There was a possibility of internal injuries or broken ribs. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.